Surprised how subdued Ross Rogers was today, huh? He was really quiet.
He wanted to make a stay.
Well, he vetoed everything.
Yeah.
I told him, when you're not drinking, you get to be a contrary.
Hardy got it gavel down.
Gavel him down?
How you doing, sir? Oh, good to see you.
How you doing, Ross?
You get one.
Nice to meet you.
Look at the mic. that distinction.
Could I have your attention, please? If everyone could please find their seat, and we will get started. Welcome everyone to our 12th annual, and I think what's very important is we would like to expedite things as much as possible. What I would like everybody to do now is to stand as we honor our country and face the flag for the national anthem. At this time, I would like to introduce Travis Douglas, who is going to give the invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this week we've had, and be with us through tonight and as we travel home. Bless this food to our body. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
In order for us to start eating, oh, by the way, they had a problem back there. Did you say we were going to have hot dogs?
Steak knives just to throw us on.
Yes. For dinner tonight, we're going to start with the head table, and then we're going to go by tiers, starting at the left side over here and working across the first tier of tables, then the second tier of tables, and so forth. So let us begin. Play ball.
I'm not going to.
Seeing you don't have any idea who I am, I'm Bill Woolley. I was a distributive education teacher at Hall while you were a student, and friends with Jane and Freddie. And they would have taken you if your mother had thrown you out in a second.
Good people.
Well, you were a good person too, and you'll never continue. I'm a U of A graduate 3 times, so.
Good to see you.
Left you all by yourself. Right?
They sure did. Hey, Grant, how you been doing, man? Good to see you also.
You spoke of something like I had to do this. I want to fix this one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a while.
You look great.
I feel good. Now, where are you living at?
We're in Fayetteville.
You still in Fayetteville? Okay.
Let's see. My wife's back there in the green dress looking at the wheat. Probably can't see her. We'll come by after.
Okay. All right. Good seeing you, Grant. All right, bye. Hey, guys. How you been doing? All right.
That's my number, right?
Yes. Now, my man.
Yeah.
So where do you work at?
Oh, man. I
What's
still
your
broadcast
membership?
with
You still broadcast?
Yeah, but I worked for International Corporation for years,
Okay.
where they made school buses and stuff.
Right.
Worked with the union representation activities. I worked with the Democratic Party and the DNC, national.
So you're the membership person.
Oh, yeah. I've been here since they originated.
How long have you been there?
It's been going about 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
Well, the company has really grown a lot out there.
Oh, yeah, man. You get lost.
I kept driving. I was like, wow. I know people have said West Conway has grown.
You got to pick that straight direction.
Yeah.
You know, like when you come off the freeway or something. Which one you get off? What's
I got on 65.
65?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you really work your way over.
Yeah. And left my phone on, my dab on. I thought I had it figured out, but I didn't. But I was hoping Mark would say I have a couple of jokes about it.
You're being lost to talk about your life.
Oh man, I have a joke about
Marvin and all the guys. I run into them. Right. We keep it going. Hey, I'm gonna let you concentrate, and I'll let you
concentrate.
Look around.
Look around.
Holler.
Yeah. All right. Hey, guys.
Yes, sir. You man. Last time I seen you live, come to teletype.
Teletype. Yeah. Yeah, Danny Smith. Yeah. How are you today? Nice to see you. Yes, sir. Good to see you. I appreciate it. It's been all good. Where is the foundation table?
I don't think you've had a chance to meet, but I've always wanted to meet you. Would you mind signing this?
Best legend in Arkansas.
That's right. I guess make it out to Jay and Jana if you don't mind. J-A-Y.
Coach Charles Ripley will be here in a minute.
He will be good. What's the other?
And J-A-N-A, Jana. And this is what I'm really wanting you to
Picture up there. We got it right here.
Wow, looky there.
make that out to Jay and Jana. And whatever you want to put on there then.
Put a lot on there. But you can't see it.
And can you date it right below that?
It did better over there.
It's 7/18.
You're not going to send that for $1 million, are you?
Oh no, I'm going to frame it. That's what I'm going to do.
You bet.
I've got one of these for Marvin and one of these for Ron Brewer. I've got to catch Ron Brewer sometime. That'll have the triplets.
All right, Jay, look right here. Get a picture. Awesome.
I'm not going to eat.
You're not going to eat. Oh, it's good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Jana, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Open that up. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, he's had that for a long time. Hey, he wants to see your cover, Sports Illustrated.
I've got it, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah, we
I've
found
had this for 40 years. I've been trying to get a chance to sit here and sign it. So
Finally got a chance.
I tell you, that was a very awesome. I was at the game in 1977 when y'all played Wake Forest in Oklahoma City. And you fouled out with about 6 minutes left, and we lost that game. But you made up for it the next year and the following year.
I remember that.
Hey, Jay, let him borrow the Sharpie.
Oh, sure.
And we're at that back table.
There you
Here,
go.
go put all that up. And I'll...
time for questions as she locks up your arm in hers, and you follow till your sense of which direction completely disappears. By the blue tiled walls near the market stalls, there's a hidden door she leads you to. These days, she says, I feel my life just like a river running through the year of the cat.
2010, Ken Hatfield. 2016, Ray Rogers. In 2017, Charles Ripley. And at this time, I'd like to turn this over to Mike Harrison, who will be our Toastmaster for the evening. Thank you.
Great job there, Jim Kelly. Remember when you used to coach at Hendricks College, a swimming and diving coach? Turned out a lot of great athletes over there, and we appreciate you being on the board all these years. Now, the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame, now in our 12th year, started way back there in 2007, and one of the inductees tonight was the Master of Ceremonies for the first 2 years, Dave Woodman. Let's hear for Dave. The Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame gets bigger and bigger every year. If you'll look on page, I think 3 or 4, you can see all the different board members we have that does a great job. And we look to induct great people every year. First of all, it starts with a master list of 50 to 60 sportscasters and sports writers, and then the board votes for 10 people. Every board member votes for 10. We total up the votes, and then the top 10 is put on the master ballot, and if there's a tie for 10th, like I think this year we had 3 or 4 tied for 10th, then those people are on the master ballot too. I think we had 14 sportscasters, 12 sports writers, and then the media votes on those selections on the master ballot. It's brought back to the board. The board verifies the votes 3 times, and then we have our sportscaster, sports writer, and also our lifetime achievement. Right now, I'd like to recognize the head table. First of all, to our right side, let's hear it for the lifetime achievement here tonight, Cliff Garrison and Mary Beth Garrison. To my right here is the sports writer and his wife. Let's hear it for Nate Allen, and let's hear it for his wife, Nancy. Yeah, Nancy, let's hear it. Before we start the induction tonight, we'll be hearing from our keynote speaker. We started that 3 years ago when Mark Martin was a keynote speaker 3 years ago. Last year, it was Harold Horton. This year, give him a big round of applause. A legend in Arkansas when it comes to basketball, Sidney Moncrief. To my left, being inducted as a sports writer here tonight, is Dave Woodman with his wife, Lydia Woodman. And the person that will be inducted, Dave, tonight, a legend when it comes to weather. I remember when I was growing up, I could see the weather all the time on Channel 4. Let's hear it for Tom Bonner. And his friend is with him tonight, Pete Hornebeck. Did I say it right? Pete Hornebeck. Sorry about it. I got to get out of the Becks and go to the Brooks. So thanks for coming tonight, Pete. This last year, we lost 3 outstanding people that were past inductees of the Arkansas Sportscaster and Sports Writers Hall of Fame. The most inductees that we have ever lost. We have lost sportscaster Frank Broyles from the year 2011. We lost Lifetime Achievement a few years ago in Clyde Scott. And we lost sports writer from 2012, the same year that I was inducted. It makes me feel old to know that he's not here anymore. A good friend, David McCullum. You will be knowing that tonight we will be honoring those people. If you look at your program on the top of your front page of the program, we say we're honoring those 3 people tonight. Plus honoring all the inductees tonight and honoring service awards tonight and also the member of the year. So let's get with the program tonight, because Norm DeBryan said, Mike, the sooner we get out of here, the quicker we can get back home. Norm DeBryan, where are you? Stand for us, please. Norm DeBryan. Let's hear for it, Norm. The guy that got the winning ways at the University of Arkansas, and Dave Van Horn continues to just have an outstanding career there and does a great job with the Razorbacks. I'm predicting in the next couple of years, the Razorbacks will win the national championship. Do y'all agree with that? Do y'all agree with it? Now let's get to our Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame video. As was said earlier, we have lost 3 great people that has been inducted in the past in the Arkansas Sportscaster Sportswriter Hall of Fame. Frank Broyles, Clyde Scott, and David McCullum. I want to direct your attention to the video of honoring these 3 outstanding inductees.
Baby cried the day the circus came to town, 'cause she didn't want parades just passing by her. So she painted on a smile and took up with some clown, while she danced without a net up on the wire. I know a lot about her, 'cause you see, baby is an awful lot like me.
The 1979 Sugar Bowl. Matching 2 teams battling on the field for the game that could mean the national championship. Number 1 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. Number 2 ranked Crimson Tide of Alabama. Working with us as analyst and commentator today, Mr. Frank Broyles. And Frank, we've talked considerably now about the offense, but you and I both know that Joe Paterno and Bear Bryant build their football teams on defense.
Well, Penn State is the best defensive football team in the country. The reason is, Keith, they play hard and aggressive against the run. In fact, they try to shut it down completely. And when they do, watch out. Here comes a big rush that demoralizes most offensive units. But I should point out that this is the first time in 3 years that Penn State has faced the wishbone attack.
Don't cry out loud, just keep it inside, and learn how to hide your feelings. Fly high and proud, and if you should fall, remember you almost had it all.
With little to choose between them. On the left, Scott, and on the extreme right, Porter and Dixon. They're off. Watch Bill Porter go to the front. The other 2 Americans are neck and neck to the finish. Porter wins by 2 yards, and with a time of 13 and 9/10 seconds, it's another new Olympic record.
Don't cry out loud, just keep it inside, and learn how to hide your feelings. Should fall,
last year's fight, there was a feeling among the media and the fans that perhaps the match between Gary Hogan and Mike was just a publicity gimmick. I think the whole thing is put in perspective by this comment by David McCollum, the sports director of the Arkansas Democrat.
Well, you know, it's funny. I think there was two things. The crowd kind of changed. I think the first couple of rounds, the crowd was kind of a masochistic crowd. It really wanted Gary to get hurt. It really wanted Corey to knock him out. But when it became obvious, of course, Corey could have done pretty much what he wanted to Gary, and I think Gary threw about one punch, and that was an accident. He was fighting a defensive fight just to stay alive.
Now, if I could do any other job in the world besides the one I have, it would be what David does. My wife will attest to that. I'm proud to call him a friend, and tonight I'm proud to call him a Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, the newest inductee to the Arkansas Sportswriters Sportscasters Hall of Fame, Mr. David McCullum.
I had the privilege to cover coaches such as Cliff Garrison, Don Dyer, Harold Hort, Joe Mallett, Joe Graham, John Hutchcraft, all of whom won hundreds and hundreds of games, approaching 400 or 500 games, and they did it with class. I watched from the developmental stage how Scottie Pippen and Peyton Hillis and Bryce Motor grew into icons. Sure, there are bad guys in sports, just as there are in journalism and any aspect of life. What keeps you going are the relationships and experiences with the good guys and the good people in all our sports and communities. The key is perspective about games and life. Through it all, and in closing, I'll furnish a slightly different take on a statement by Grantland Rice, the legendary sports writer. It's not whether it's winning or losing you're watching or recording, it's how you view the game. I'm blessed to have been able to capture and share many of those perspectives with and alongside many of you. Thank you for this honor.
Three legends that everybody that has seen in the past that have come here and spoke at the Arkansas Sportscasters and Sportswriters Hall of Fame. Three legends that as long as the Sportscasters and Sportswriters Hall of Fame continues, and we want it to continue after I'm gone to heaven and a lot of y'all, we want it to be great, and always remember these people that meant so much to us. Let's hear it for them one more time. I'd like to recognize a couple of sports writers here tonight. First of all, the new sports writer of the Log Cabin Democrat. Let's hear it for Andy Robertson. Andy, stand for us, please. A guy that has wrote sports for a number of years in Northwest Arkansas. Let's hear it for Grant Hall. Grant? And I understand your wife and Nate Allen's wife are good friends. They go back a long, long time. And the first time Nate ever met his wife was at y'all's house. Is that right? Good deal. Well, we appreciate these sports writers being here today. And if it wasn't for them, we couldn't be here. and we couldn't give you the stories and the films and the radio broadcasts of all the games on radio, television, and the newspaper. Let's get to our first big award tonight, the Arkansas Sports Club Member of the Year. It's every year the Arkansas Sports Club members votes, and the Arkansas Sports Club meets the second Monday of every month at the Chinatown Restaurant in Conway. Last year, the person that was named the Sports Club Member of the Year, Jim Baker. We always have a tradition where the guy last year presents the award this year. Let's hear it for Faulkner County Judge Jim Baker.
I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege, just a moment. I have a guest here tonight, he and his wife. His name is Congressman French Hill. Would you give him a round of applause? Congressman Hill, thank you. And we appreciate you being here. Take one more personal privilege. Folks, there's more information in this booklet than a show dog can jump over about Arkansas athletics. It's unreal. Mike, you're to be commended. I think I counted Hollywood and lost count twice, but I believe there's 50 pages in this booklet. And it tells a lot of the history of Arkansas sports in my lifetime. I don't remember much about some of the others, but in my lifetime. I have the honor of introducing the Arkansas Sports Club Member of the Year. Every club, organization, sports team, even the church, is as strong as the people that make up the membership of that organization. That's most true in the Arkansas Sports Club, the sponsor of this Hall of Fame. There is no better time, nor do we ever get any better than when we recognize good people that make a difference for others. In 2018, Member of the Year of the Arkansas Sports Club is Dr. Orville Burks. He's been an active member of our club for the past 10 years. Dr. Burke has established his mark in Arkansas. First, growing up at Batesville, Arkansas, playing high school basketball. Then attending Arkansas College and playing basketball there at Arkansas College. He left there and went to the College of the Ozarks at Rolla, Missouri, south of Branson. Folks, if you go to Ozarks, you have to earn a degree. You work for that degree at the College of the Ozarks. He left there and came to UCA, where he served as chairman of the health education program for 28 years. He also served as the UCA faculty athletic representative to the old AIC, Arkansas Intercollegiate Conference, which was the Golden Conference back in the day. He served 2 different times as president for a total of 4 years. And his mark continues tonight by being inducted into his 4th Hall of Fame. Please join me in recognizing Dr. Orville Burks. Thank you. Mr. Burks, Dr. Burks, his family had an family emergency. They're in Texas. We'll present the plaque at the next club meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for being a member of the Arkansas Sports Club for all these years. Do a great job as the Faulkner County Judge. If y'all go around Faulkner County, look at the roads. The roads are in better shape than we have seen in several years. Keep up the great work, Jim Baker. Now, the next thing we want to go to is the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame Service Awards. When someone at the Arkansas Sports Club passes away, or someone that's a member of the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame passes away, we always honor those people And only 2 years in the last 12, we've had people that did not pass away, so we honored someone in the Arkansas Sports Club. Last year, we honored Doretta Bright. I believe she's here today. Doretta, will you stand for us? Where's Doretta Bright? Doretta. There she is. And I tell you what, she was married to an outstanding football coach at UCA, Coach Bright. He was a coach at UCA in the 1960s, had innovation that you would not believe. Thank you very much, Doretta, for coming here today. Doretta retired from the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame Board last year. Thank you for your service to the board for all those number of years. So we have 3 awards to give away tonight. First of all, Bill Pate. He came to the Arkansas Sports Club meetings every month, sat right next to Orville Burks. They had so many stories to tell, it's hard to keep up with them, the stories they were telling in an hour at the Arkansas Sports Club. Bill was born on January the 6th, 1927 in Marshall, Arkansas. He was a grad of Marshall in 1944, and also he attended Arkansas State Teachers College, now the University of Central Arkansas. He coached and taught at Marshall, Searcy, Clinton, and Conway. 1966 hired as director of placement, and 20 years later in 1986 was named the interim president of the University of Central Arkansas. Well, Bill, he passed away earlier this year, and we have his daughters. I believe they are here tonight. Would y'all please come up and accept this award that we want to give your father, Bill Pate, the great Bill Pate. Let's hear it for Bill Pate's family. We're not going to let you get by. We want you to talk.
Has anyone else ever been in this position? Say a few words. My sister Carrie needs to come up and stand right beside me. I'm going back, and I will be brief, to when I was 8 years old. And my baby sister arrived. And my dad's ball team came over to wish us all well. Only one of them said, as only a 17-year-old male can do, "Mr. Pate, didn't you really want a boy?" And my dad said, "I'd rather have these 2 girls than a whole backyard full of ornery boys." And I think Carrie and I certainly lived on those words ever since. Thank you for honoring him.
My dad was very gifted in many areas. I don't have those gifts, but I remember him saying, if you're ever going to do any public speaking, remember 2 things: be brief and be seated. So this is a year of first for us, our first year of Father's Day without Dad, first birthday without Dad, and so it's a new normal for us, but we just thank you so much for loving our dad as we did. Thank you for honoring him.
We will always remember Bill Pate, always, as long as the Arkansas Sports Club's going. And we hope to be at the sports club another 50 years. That is, if my wife will let me live that long. By the way, my wife is here. She is the backbone of everything I do, and she does a lot of stuff behind the scenes at the Arkansas Sports Club and Hall of Fame. Let's hear it from my wife, Elaine Harrison. Elaine, darling, stand up. Stand up. Keep telling her she has a hairstyle like a movie star, but she don't believe me on that. Another person that is receiving, the family of Jimmy Rogers is receiving a service award tonight. Jimmy Rogers, a member of the Arkansas Sports Club. His brother, Tony Rogers, was a charter member of the Arkansas Sports Club board for a number of years. Jimmy started coming to the sports club in 2007, and since he passed away, he was a member of the Arkansas Sports Club. Jimmy was born on September 26, 1953 in Conway, Arkansas. Jimmy played football for the Valonia Eagles and graduated in 1972. He was the radio voice of the Valonia Eagles as he started broadcasting games on KASR-FM in Conway. He retired from Nabisco Foods in 1997. He broadcast football and basketball state championship games on the Creative Sports Network. He was a member of the Arkansas Sports Club for a number of years, and we consider him a dear, dear friend. And we know that the whole table is here. I think we have about 10 people honoring Jimmy Rogers from his family. So will y'all come up and accept this nice service award from the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame? Let's hear it for the Jimmy Rogers family.
Hey everybody. It's an honor for my family and I to be here tonight. Dad, like Mr. Harrison said, was the voice of Valonia Eagles for over 25 years for both football and basketball. Broadcasting was something that Dad always knew he wanted to do. As a boy growing up, he would watch games on TV and mute the sound so that he could practice commentating. He did this up until January even. He was always an avid sports fan, but quickly realized broadcasting would be his way of pursuing his athletic dreams since he was not a very good athlete himself. He would get to the games early. He was so excited to be there. He would get there early enough to set everything up, talk to the coaches, line up some interviews for the game. And he just loved what he did. He loved his community, he loved his family, and he loved the state. Thank you so much for honoring him tonight.
Thank you. The third service award that we would like to give tonight from the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame was a guy that promoted the Arkansas Sports Club and the Sportscaster and Sportswriter Hall of Fame with different articles over the years, David McCullum. David of North Little Rock was born March the 2nd, 1950 in Memphis, Tennessee. He was a graduate of Kingsbury High School in Memphis and Baylor University in Waco, Texas. David was an award-winning sports journalist, winning over 200 to 300 awards as he worked nearly 4 decades at the Log Cabin Democrat in Conway. In the early 1970s, he was sports editor of the Arkansas Democrat in Little Rock, as David had been a member of the Arkansas Sports Club since 2007. He was also inducted in the Hall of Fame here, the 6th Arkansas Sportscaster Sportswriter Hall of Fame sports writer in 2012. His widow here tonight is Beverly. Would you give Beverly a big warm of applause? Beverly? And David's son's here too.
Thank you so much to the Arkansas Sportscasters and Sportswriters Hall of Fame for this recognition of David. He would have been so honored. And he loved Faulkner County and all the sports that went on here. And we miss him, and again, just thank you so much.
Dad really loved this organization, and he loved what he did, and we miss him, but we know that he would be proud tonight. And two things, if you are still in the journalism world, if you are still a reporter. One, to honor his legacy, make sure you use your apostrophes correctly. And two, most importantly, always report with integrity, because that's what David McCollum always did. Thank you again for this honor. Thank you.
Yeah, David was a member, he was a friend with everybody here at the Arkansas Sports Club. We really miss David, and his legacy will continue in sports writing at the Log Cabin Democrat and also the state of Arkansas. Covered a lot of national events, by the way. He covered the Olympics at one time. So we take our hats off to David McCollum, who is our third recipient of the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Service Award. By the way, if you see these plaques being handed out, these plaques have been donated ever since we started in 2006. Every plaque, and every year we have more and more plaques to give away. And I would like to ask Tom Muir of the Conway Trophy and Awards to stand up for us. Give him a big round of applause. Tom Muir. Thank you, Tom. He comes every year and fills his table. Now, isn't that something that everybody needs to do? That'd be great. Well, this last year, we've lost a lot of sportscasters, sports writers, people on television, in the sports world, coaches. We've lost a lot of coaches and a lot of people involved with the sports world. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a tradition here at the Arkansas Sportscasters and Sportswriters Hall of Fame to honor all the people that we know that passed away this past year. If you'll watch the screens, in memoriam of the people that passed away.
Again, I want to thank the Association of Sports Writers and Sportscasters for all that they do. We have a great state. We have great coverage.
They would probably say, filling in for Bud Campbell, here's Gary Weir. And ladies and gentlemen, that is truly an honor. Thank you very much.
1964 was the date that we're talking about here, and the illusion of that game was that it was one of those nights that when a player gets on fire. I guess that was my night.
61-59, Rosebud leading, 2 seconds left in the game. And at the foul line, Richie Martin. Martin shot up, no good. Long shot at the buzzer, good! Melodia wins! Ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe it!
Well, lo and behold, we ran the race, and it just one of my best efforts, and it tied the world's record. And then the very next week, we entered the Southwest Conference meet at Texas, and lo and behold, I won that. So the only 2 times I ran the 100 in college up at that time had been those 2 races.
Whether it's winning or losing, you're watching or recording, it's how you view the game. I'm blessed to have been able to capture and share many of those perspectives with and alongside many of you. Thank you for this honor.
Gentlemen, to give one big round of applause for these great people that passed away this year. And we will see them one day in heaven. We guarantee that. We'll do that if we do what the Lord wants us to do every day of our life. Well, every year, for the last 5 years, we've been giving away an award. This award comes directly from me. It's called the Executive Director's Award to an outstanding person that has meant so much to the state of Arkansas. This outstanding person is, he loved baseball. He did outstanding at the University of Arkansas. The Executive Director's Award goes this year to Norm DeBryan. Norm, come on up. Let's give him one more big round of applause. Norm DeBryan.
What a surprise. Very unworthy, but thank you for everybody and all of the support and for this organization is just tremendous, honoring the people, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Go, Hogs, go. Norm, we appreciate what you did at the University of Arkansas, really building up the baseball program. It continues to go upward and onward this day with Coach Dave Van Horn, and we appreciate you here tonight at the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame. We have a special recognition award, and we want to call a board member up to present this special recognition award. Let's hear it for the former president of the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, good board member David Grimes. Let's hear it for David.
Thank you, Mike. Before I do that, Mike, I would just like to thank you on behalf of everyone here for all you do for the monthly sports club meetings and for this annual event. It's such a great thing that everybody enjoys, so let's give a round of applause to Mike. Now, I've been a Conway alderman for 16 years now, and I can promise you what I'm about to do is the absolute highlight of that 16 years. I get to read a proclamation in honor of my all-time favorite sports hero, Sidney Moncrief. Sidney, when you became a Milwaukee Buck in '79, I was about 10 or 11 years old, and like most of the state, I became a Milwaukee Buck fan and cheered for you that entire decade. So it was such a joy, such a joy. Okay, and this is on behalf of Mayor Bart Castleberry, who could not be here tonight. I'm reading this in his stead. Whereas Sidney Moncrief is a native Arkansan and one of the most beloved sports figures in state history, and whereas Sidney Moncrief was an All-American basketball player at the University of Arkansas, whereas one of the famed triplets, he led the Razorbacks to the 1978 NCAA Final Four, and whereas Sidney Moncrief appeared on one of the most famous Sports Illustrated covers of all time, remember that? I think it's right up there. High on the Hogs, dunking over the Texas Longhorns. Oh, yeah. And whereas Sidney Moncrief was an NBA first-round draft pick by the Milwaukee Bucks in 1979, and whereas Sidney Moncrief was a 5-time NBA All-Star and twice named NBA Defensive Player of the Year, and whereas Sidney Moncrief had his number 32 retired by the Arkansas Razorbacks and his number 4 retired by the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, therefore, I, Bart Castleberry, Mayor of Conway, here to proclaim Saturday, July 7th, 2018 as Sidney Moncrief Day.
Thank you.
Sidney, thanks for being our special keynote speaker here tonight at the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame. As we said earlier, you followed in the footsteps of Mark Martin, and last year, Harold Horton, which you know real well. Harold. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker, let's look at the video, a presentation about Sidney Moncrief, the Superman Man.
Touch me with your eyes, flying through the sky. I've never felt the same, but I am not a bird, and I am not a plane. I'm Superman. When you love me, it's easy. I can do
U.S. saved it. Passes to Zahn inside. Moncrief. Sidney shot up good. Pretty close. The ball finally delivered. McKee in the corner to Ewing. Jump shot short. Reed with a rebound. U.S. wants to run. Reed beat Moncrief. Driving. Sidney layup. Good! Hastings inside Sidney, faking, going up, shot good! Great move by Moncrief. He has 10. And 10-point lead. There's Moncrief and a steal. Here's the slam dunk. Oh! 15 Moncrief. Hastings comes on. Listen to the crowd as they cheer Sidney Moncrief. Eddie Sutton and Moncrief on the sideline as Sidney will get a standing ovation here as he wraps up a great home career.
Well, what else can you say, Paul? The band says it all.
He's acknowledging to the fans now, and they love it.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very precious, Paul, but he's the finest young man I've ever been around. Just impossible to describe what kind of person Sidney Moncrief is.
Well, they're still responding to the great All-American out of Little Rock, Arkansas. A career scoring record, 1,937 points.
With Hall of Fame finalist and Bucks legend Sidney Moncrief. Sidney, congratulations first off being a finalist for the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. How much of an honor is this for you?
It's really surprising. I've been a finalist before, but Telly, I always think I played the game of basketball because I like to play. I love to play basketball. I never played it for awards. I didn't play it to go into the Hall of Fame. So it's a pretty good feeling. My wife said I should be more excited than what I am. I said, well, when I'm elected to the Hall of Fame, you might get a smile out of me.
Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker for the evening, Super Sidney Moncrief.
Hello, how are we doing today? All right, good to be here among so many great people. I love the state of Arkansas, see a lot of familiar faces. Something came to mind as I was watching the people that passed, and I have a wristband around my wrist. My company is called Moncrief One Team, and we believe in being game changers. So on my wrist is something that says game changers. And everyone that came up here, thank you for being a game changer. Everyone at this table, thank you all for impacting lives. And my mom, who's very special to me, she died yesterday. Yeah, that's okay. It's all good. It's all good. She's 95, and she played into overtime, as we say. And so it brought back memories of one thing's for certain, we all will die. That's a given. The only thing that matters is, did you make an impact? Did you become a game changer? Did you change a life for someone? And that's why it's appropriate that I still come here today, because I have so much respect for these people in the front, and I see some people in the audience that's very, very special to me also. But Marvin is from Conway. I wish he was here. Anybody know Marvin Deff? Okay. Marvin, great player. Great player. I always said about Marvin, he never saw a pass he could make or a shot he wouldn't take. In fact, I still have a picture on my desk, and I'm like this right here. Marvin has the ball. I'm like, pass it, Marvin, pass it. He never would pass it. Well, what a great player. And of course, Coach Garrison, you had the luxury of coaching Lawson Pierpont. Lawson, one of the best players out ever in the state of Arkansas, certainly out of Conway. Lawson was very smart in math. Did you know that? You probably know he's smart. Oh, he was really smart, because when he came to Arkansas, he could count at least to 3. He could count to 3. He said, Ron's number 1, Marvin's number 2, Sydney's number 3. There ain't a spot for me. I'm out of here. That's when he transferred to Hendricks. Like, I'm gone. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. But my days at Arkansas, they were very special. Coach Pat Foster, who recruited me, Coach Ripley, and we all remember Coach Foster. And Coach Foster had this habit that anyone that knew Coach Foster, he had a habit of taking a quarter, and he would do what? He would just flip it. Just flip it just like this. I was in high school then. He was recruiting me. And after about the 3rd time of watching him flip this quarter, I'm like, He was doing this, and I said, Coach, I got a statement to make. You've been recruiting me for a while, and I just want you to know, I will not play for the University of Arkansas for a quarter. Especially when you gave Marvin 50 cents and Ron $1, I am not going to go. So he needs to step it up a little bit. But like I was saying, I love Arkansas. Coach Ripley probably don't remember, but he took me so many places when I was a young kid. AIC, I loved AIC. I grew up watching AIC. Rip told us one summer that we were going to a summer basketball camp. So he loaded at least 10 people in this blue van. Not exaggerating, 10 people. I was in the back, people all over me. We get to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're at an FCA camp, a religious camp, which he never told us it was a religious camp, right, Rip? He was just trying to get us somewhere. So we get to FCA camp, and Kim Camp left. He's from Little Rock. He said, I'm out of here. And I never forget, it kind of stayed in my mind. They had people from all over the country, Indiana, Illinois, all these big states, and we were very proud of being from Arkansas. Very proud. And Marvin went on this trip, Tommy Tapley, my best friend, and I remember very vividly, every time we played someone from another state, we just waxed them. We waxed everybody because they would look at us and say, you guys are from Arkansas. You can't be from Arkansas. You have shoes on. Yeah, that's what they would say. And by the time we finished that week, we had taken all their shoes, all their money. We were all good. We were all good. My wife, she can't be here tonight because she's a doctoral program. She's in England, but about 2 weeks ago before she left, she was already in the bed, and I was getting in the bed. And so I get in the bed, she's kind of asleep, and all of a sudden, I touch her head. She said, "Oh." I touched her shoulder, said, "Oh." I started going down to her, so close to her breast, excuse me. She said, "Oh." I started kept feeling down to her hips, said, "Whoa." And then all of a sudden I stopped. And she said, "Honey, what happened?" I said, "Well, I found the remote, I'm good." Got the remote. I'm all good, baby. Yeah. But what I wanted to talk to you tonight very briefly, because I'm definitely going to be brief, because as I look at the gentlemen at this table and the people that have been honored, one thing came to mind. Number one is game changer. Number two is greatness. We use that term very lightly. What is greatness? How does it look? And I always like to give the analogy when I talk to groups that I like to tell people, sip. Everybody says sip. Y'all are weak. Everybody says sip. Sip. There you go. From the cup of greatness. One more time. Sip. Sip. From the cup of greatness. Sip. S means everyone up here, and that's been honored. Number one, they have separated themselves. That's what greatness is. There needs to be a separation between you and everyone within your profession. It's profound. Everyone can see it. Everyone can say, this person, Dave Woodman, who started as a disc jockey, he separated himself. Coach Garrison, who started as a junior high school coach, has what? Separated himself. Nate Allen, he was a puppy when I was in Arkansas. Not that I'm older than you, just so you know. But he has done what? Separated himself. So number one, S is for separate. I, great people impact others. It's not about how much you impact for yourself. It's not how much money you have. It's not about how much notoriety you have. It's all about whose life have you changed. Have you been a game changer? Have you made an impact on someone else's life? You look at all the great leaders. all the great athletes. LeBron James is great, and Michael Jordan is great. I know these younger people don't know Michael Jordan. You don't know Michael Jordan? You know Sidney Moncrief? They said, well, I saw the film. I could barely see him because that film was not in digital, but that's okay. But all great players, all great people, they impact others. And you all have impacted so many different lives. We talk about integrity. Integrity runs throughout the state of Arkansas. Integrity runs throughout the reporting in Arkansas. Integrity is what our state is all about. So number one, you have to do what? Separate. Number two, you have to what? Impact. And number three, you have to perform consistently. You can't score 30 points one night, 10 points the next, 0 points the next. Greatness is about performing over how many years?
62. You mean career? 60.
Performing over 60 years. Performing how many years, Dave?
44, I think.
Okay, 40-something years. Performing over 40-something years. 60. I mean, 40, 60 is all about performance over a lifetime. And that's why we all are going to, right now, we're going to raise our cups. Raise your cups. Raise your glasses. We're going to raise our glasses to these gentlemen, ladies at the front table, and we're going to sip from the cup of what? Greatness. Thank you all very much.
Let's hear it for Sidney Moncrief. Sidney, for being the keynote speaker here tonight at the Arkansas Sports Club, at the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame, we would like to give you this legendary recognition award presented to Sidney Moncrief in recognition of your contribution to Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame this July 7th, 2018. Congratulations, Sidney.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Also, Sidney, you're doing a great job with Game Changers Incorporated, and the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame would like to give Game Changers a donation to help.
Oh, thank you.
Let's hear it for Sidney Moncrief.
Just so you know, this is not drinking money. I don't drink. But Game Changer is an organization, and we work with young people and adults in the area of team enhancement, workplace readiness, entrepreneurship, and leadership. So we're very appreciative of this donation. We can continue to work in the state of Arkansas. We do work in Wisconsin and work in Texas. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sidney. We appreciate you. We hope you come back several times. You're welcome every year to the Arkansas Sportscaster Sportswriter Hall of Fame. Also keep us updated on how Game Changers are doing from year to year. So we're very happy to have you here tonight. By the way, there's a couple of people in the audience I'd like to recognize. The former head basketball coach, he's a legend from the University of Central Arkansas at the UCA athletics table, Ronnie Marvel. Ronnie, would you stand for us, please? And here in attendance tonight is the president of the Arkansas Track and Field Hall of Fame. Let's hear it for Ernie Miller, great athlete when he was growing up. It's time now to get to our induction ceremonies tonight here at the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame. The first person we want to induct tonight is the Lifetime Achievement Award to a man that has done several things in the sports world. He also is the founder of the Arkansas Basketball Coaches Association a few years ago after he retired. Head basketball coach at Hendrix College for a number of years, over 30 years, athletic director at Hendrix College. And Don Dyer said one time, if you ask Cliff Garrison to do something, he will get it done. As ladies and gentlemen, if you watch the video of the presentation of our Lifetime Achievement Award to Cliff Garrison.
7 lonely days, and a dozen times ago I reached out one night and you were gone. Don't know why you'd run, what you're running to or from. All I know is I want to bring you home.
Here's Hicks inbounding the ball to Joyner. 3, 2, 1. The game is over. And Hendricks College, for the first time in the history of the school, has won a District 17 championship. Final score in the game, Hendricks 59 and Arkansas Tech 57.
Searching for you in the cold Kentucky rain, in the cold Kentucky rain, in the cold Kentucky rain.
It's up there. The shot is good. 20 in the game for McDaniels. 133, 129. Here's Herbert across the strike, left side. Three-point shot is up. It is no good. Rebound by Jackie Banks with 3 seconds left. 2-1. The game is over. The Hendricks College Warriors have just won one of the most outstanding comebacks I have ever seen, and one of the most outstanding victories that the school of Hendricks College has ever produced.
Kentucky rain keeps pouring down, and up ahead's another town that I'll go walking through with the rain in my shoes, searching for you in the cold Kentucky rain, in the cold Kentucky rain.
I appreciate the introduction, and it's an honor to be inducted with the other inductees, and particularly Robert, who played such a big role in our District 17 championship team. After a year at Henderson, the Hendricks job came open, and I was fortunate to have some people here that helped me get the position when Coach Hutto decided to step down. Bill Patterson, who's here tonight, Bill's with the NAIA, Gerald Cowan, John Guthrie, and Bob Courtway, I think all helped convince Dr. Schilling to offer me the job. Well, Dr. Schilling, who is now at Southwestern University, which is in our conference, called me in. He said, I just want you to know that there was some pretty stiff competition for this job. I said, yes, sir. He said, Bob Cousy. I said, oh, yes, sir. I said, that's pretty stiff. And he said, but we chose you. And boy, I swelled up, you know, and then I thought, now Bob Cousy, let's see, he would get $10,500 for one talk, and much less come coach for $10,500.
Searching for you in the cold Kentucky rain, in the cold Kentucky rain.
Let's hear it for Cliff Garrison. And ladies and gentlemen, to present Cliff to the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame with a Lifetime Achievement Award is a former statistician at Hendricks College. Let's hear it for Larry Grady.
Well, most of you know Coach Garrison and all of his achievements, and I'm here to introduce him for this Lifetime Achievement Award. And in that process, I wish to discuss and focus upon two words, lifetime and success. Cliff contacted me several days ago and asked me to introduce him to you tonight. Frankly, I do not understand why he did that. He must have forgotten when I introduced him when he received the Elijah Pitts Award. I messed it up pretty good. But he asked me to come, and even Mary Beth commented after that introduction that I made it sound like he was close to being placed in the casket. Well, here I am tonight, and he's receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. How can I ignore talking about a lifetime of achievements when Cliff, who may be old and hard of hearing and sensitive and all of those other things that go along with this aging process, but he has the potential to serve a little bit longer. Of course, I have a few good reasons to continue to focus on that word lifetime, because since 1972, Cliff and I have shared appropriately wishes for each other's birthday. You know, friends do that, right? Quite often a card, sometimes a small gift. He always gave me a book that I didn't want to read. Often I have kept a couple of those cards because they have meant so much to me in my lifetime. On or about my 40th birthday, he presented a happy birthday wish, and a few years later, 2 years later, another birthday wish. I want to share those wishes with you. I have them. That was a long time ago, by the way. I'm not exactly 40 anymore. As a man gets older, some parts of him tend to shrivel up and recede into his body. That's the outside part. The inside says, hopefully it's just your teeth. Well, he paid for those words, but that wasn't good enough for him. He had to write in here, you may have a year or two left. Cliff. Well, 2 years later, I have this birthday card. It says, hey fella, you're not getting older, you're getting wiser. And on the inside it says, happy birthday to one of the smartest guys I know. Well, you know, that put me on cloud nine until I looked at the bottom of the card. He said, sorry guy, but it's all over for you, Cliff. Mary Beth, he put your initials below that. I know you didn't sign it. Now if I can find my place, I'll move on. With that said, I'm truly grateful of the fact that I did not tell Cliff about the birthday cards he gave me, because he could get up here and it would have encouraged him to offer some of mine that I've sent to him. Cliff, it's my belief that these folks don't wish to focus on the possibility that your lifetime of achievements are over. I think you have several more years of service remaining. Therefore, I will not consume my time with additional truthful old age lifetime references. Most of you are friends of Cliff and are familiar with his extraordinary lifetime of achievements as a coach, as a friend, as a citizen, a teacher, a Christian, a parent, husband, father, grandfather, tennis partner, you name it. You can receive or review, and you've heard many already, most of his previous awards and recognitions in this program. And I would like to add to that list an award that he will receive next week in North Carolina, when he will be inducted to the Court of Honor of the National High School Basketball Association, High School Basketball Coaches Association. And I don't think that's been published, so I'm getting to say that. So. And he's taking Mary Beth with him because he can't find his way anywhere without somebody. From the very beginning of our friendship, I recognized that Cliff had already established a very high standard upon which he measured the definition of success. Not only was his standard already very high, it was and has always been a standard that very few of us ever achieve in a lifetime. Cliff coached some of the most talented basketball players who played in the AIC and Division III during his coaching career. These players were great because each one of them was challenged by Cliff to focus on making each of the other players better. The championship teams were champions because the players were focused on the team. Cliff has been that great player in every role he has played and continues to play each and every day. That role has made a tremendous impact on all of his teammates in life. Cliff is truly that all-American player in the game of life because if you are in his company as a teammate, and for you coaches as opponents, you will have experienced from him the true meaning of competition, respect, integrity, honesty, hard work, and the unique ability to find the best in everyone. I have been honored to have him and have had him on my team for many years, almost a lifetime. I truly believe Cliff and all of his teams are playing the game of life above and beyond stars. The following poem, I think, accurately describes the formula of Cliff's lifetime of successful achievements. It goes like this. Do not live to make a living, rather live to make a life. For the measure of succeeding is your service in the strife. All that you can leave behind you when your soul has crossed the bay is the good you've done for others as you tarried by the way. Tonight, we honor our friend, the most successful person I have ever known, Coach Cliff Garrison.
That's a tough act to follow, especially Larry, after I follow the keynote speaker, Super Sid Moncrief. That's pretty tough, Mike, to follow that. But it is a great honor for me to be recognized by the Sportswriters, Sportscasters Hall of Fame, and honored to be with Dave and Nate and for Orville and Sydney on their well-deserved honors. Mike had a vision for this Hall of Fame that has recognized many sportscasters, sports writers, and other people, as you've seen in the program. But I looked at that lifetime recipients in the program and kind of wondered how I snuck in there, because there's some really outstanding people there, and many of them are here tonight. I was blessed to grow up in Forest City in a wonderful, loving family, and want to thank my teachers, teammates, coaches, and administrators there for a wonderful education, especially our head coach, Jim DeVazier, and Max Graham, whom I later got to coach with at Stuttgart, when I coached at Stuttgart. I want to thank David Grimes for the great story he did on Forest City, which recently appeared in the Log Cabin Democrat. All of the coaches that I had, plus my college coach at ASTC, who was Cliff Horton, were role models and mentors to me and had an influence on me entering the coaching profession. I loved coaching and never really wanted a, quote, real job. In the coaching profession, we say we didn't want a real job, we just wanted to coach. I've been a Mustang, Bear, Yellow Jacket, Rice Bird, and a Reddy with Vance Strange, and a Warrior and a Bear. So I've had quite a few tags there. Any success that I may have had in the coaching profession is because of my family, players, assistant coaches, and support people like Larry Grady, who gave over 30 years of his time, resources, and energy for our program. I'm not going to buy him any more books, though. Also, Hendricks Vice President Rodney Todd, who is here today, was a great supporter of our program. Jim Holland was my assistant head coach at Hendricks for 21 years and was my junior high coach at Stuttgart when I was the senior high coach. Most of all, there's no way I could have had a 41-year career that allowed me to travel to China and Africa, thanks to Coach Terry Garner sitting over here. He went to Mauritius and sent me to Niger. Without the support of the best coaching wife and family anyone could have, with my wife Mary Beth and Greg and his wife Carrie and Rachel, who are here today, my daughter Lee, who is in Amarillo, where she teaches high school English at Canyon High School in Canyon, Texas. Her husband Joe coaches wrestling and teaches at Tascosa High School in Amarillo. And their son Peyton will be a sophomore football player at Ouachita this year. Their daughter Katie Beth Stafford is a senior at West Texas State in Canyon. And our son Greg teaches art at Paragould High School, and Carrie, his wife, heads up a counseling center in Paragould in northeast Arkansas. Carrie's dad, Guy, is a Hall of Fame track coach from Arkansas State and the #2 grandfather for our kids. They have 2 daughters, Rachel, who is working on her master's at Arkansas State in speech therapy. Her boyfriend, John Tyler Poe, is here, and their daughter, Lauren, who is on a mission trip to Africa. Again, thanks for this great honor. I'll treasure it. Thank you.
One more time for Cliff Garrison, a legend. We have another legend in the audience tonight, folks. We failed to recognize this legend earlier when we were represented, when we were talking about past inductees here at the Arkansas Sportscaster Sportswriter Hall of Fame. He was inducted in the 3rd year of the Arkansas Sportscaster Sportswriter Hall of Fame with the Lifetime Achievement Award. Give it up to John McDonald. John, stand up for us, please. John McDonald, there he is. Won more national championships than any coach, I think, in America. Isn't that right, John? So, EJ, John, thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate you.
In the world, Mike.
In the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's recognize another person I just noticed in the audience, who is the executive director of the Arkansas Razorback Foundation, Scott Verity. Scott, will you stand up for us? The former Little Rock Catholic Rocket. Once they say in Little Rock, once a rocket, always a rocket, right? Now it's time to present you tonight's induction of the Arkansas Sportswriter. The induction here tonight, this is the 12th annual Arkansas Sportscaster Sportswriter Hall of Fame. This guy has really promoted the Arkansas Razorback for a number of years. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the video, the video presentation for our sports writer to be inducted here in a few minutes. Let's hear it for Nate Allen.
faces grow.
When did you learn and when did you like sports, and also how did you get interested in being a sports writer?
Well, I was actually in second grade. I ended up, I guess I knew I wasn't very good at it. I mean, I always tried to play sports, but second grade we had a thing in New Jersey. It was called the Second Grade Times, and we were supposed to bring in stuff for it. And I always would bring in the Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Giants were still there in 1957 when we moved. So between them and the Yankees, I would write detailed stories from what I heard on the radio the night before. So I guess really from that point on, I knew that pretty much that's what I was going to do. Well, it's always a surprise. I mean, to me, to be inducted in anything is an honor, but especially this. I mean, it means so much to know I'll be joining people like, Jim Bailey and Orville Henry and Wadey, Donna, David McCollum, who, just passed away, and was such a good guy and good writer. So no, it's something you never try and think about, deserving like to get in or anything like that. But when it happens, it's certainly a real honor and one I'll always treasure. According to Nancy, all I end up doing is working. I'm always typing something, it seems like, because I'm not a golfer or I've never a hunter or anything like that. So probably what I do is probably also my hobby when you really get down to it. As far as just what, I don't think I'll ever retire because I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't doing this.
To the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame, a past inductee 2 years ago, named the Sports Writer in 2016. Let's give it up for Donna Lapkin-Stevens, 2016 inductee.
Thank you, Mike. I've been lobbying for Nate Allen's induction into this Hall of Fame for several years. And I was absolutely thrilled and honored when he asked me to introduce him tonight. Nate was born in Galena, Illinois, and his family moved to Englewood, New Jersey, just 9 miles from New York, in 1957 when he was 6. He lived there until the family moved to Joplin, Missouri in 1968, which was his senior year of high school. He went to the University of Missouri to study journalism. He did an internship at the Joplin Globe, and for 2 years in Columbia, he wrote features on Mizzou athletes for the Joplin Globe. He graduated in 1973 and came to Arkansas that summer to cover the Arkansas Razorbacks as reporter and columnist for the Springdale News. In 1974 and 75, he served as the Fayetteville-based stringer covering the Hogs for the Arkansas Democrat. Nate joined the Arkansas Gazette as the Fayetteville Razorback correspondent and columnist in February 1976. That's where he was when I met him, after I came to the U of A to study journalism in 1981. I met him when I was writing for the Arkansas Traveler, the student newspaper, but I really got to know him after I went to the Gazette as an intern in the summer of 1984. During my senior year following that internship, I was a Gazette stringer in Fayetteville, where I got to know Nate and the legendary Orville Henry, the inaugural inductee into this Hall of Fame, and helped them on football game days at Razorback Stadium. My job was typing the play-by-play. Remember when the Gazette used to run those? On a gigantic piece of equipment called, I think, a telegram. Let's just say things have come a long way since then. Now, speaking of technology, Nate, I have to confess that after I went to the Gazette full-time, it was in Little Rock, and you would call in those nights on deadline to make sure that your stories had made it through the transmission of the telegram or the Radio Shack or whatever else came before the internet. It was an office joke. I don't know if it was operator error or telegram error, but often on deadline, Nate's stories didn't come through the first time, or the second, or the third, or sometimes the fourth. Whoever answered the phone and had to give him the bad news would put the receiver down so that all of us could hear Nate loudly lament, "Why me? Why me?" Nearly 30 years later, that still makes me laugh, and I'll never forget it. Unfortunately for the Gazette, and those of us who loved it, Nate left the paper in August 1990. Gannett had bought the paper from the Patterson family in 1986, and slowly but surely choked the heart and soul out of it. Part of that was losing Nate. Despite the disappointment and the anger those of us who loved it felt at the way things were changing at the Gazette, Nate landed on his feet, as he always has. From August 1990 until July 2001, he covered the Razorbacks as bureau chief and columnist for Don Ray Media, which eventually became Stevens Media. In 2001, he started Nate Allen Sports Service, and since then he has covered the Razorbacks as reporter or columnist for a variety of Arkansas daily and weekly publications. I'm not sure you can pick up a paper many places in Arkansas and not find Nate's reporting and writing. And that's a good thing for all of us. Among the major events he has covered are 4 Final Fours, including Arkansas's 1994 National Championship, 4 College World Series, including Norm DeBryant's 1979 National runner-up finish, the bulk of Arkansas's football seasons from 1973 to 2017, including Frank Broyles' final Southwest Conference Championship and Cotton Bowl Championship with his 1975 Razorbacks, and Lou Holtz's 1977 Razorbacks in their rout of Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. I know one of Nate's favorite assignments has been covering John McDonald's amazing run atop the Razorback track and field program. He covered most of the 42 national championships, including the first one in 1984, when he was the only Arkansas reporter there in Syracuse. Since 1994, Nate has also written 3 books and co-authored another. Now, he's never been afraid to call out powerful people, as he did in the 2009 column on Jeff Long, then the new athletic director at Arkansas. I'd like to read a few excerpts. Sometimes it seems like yesterday and not 1991 marking the demise of the Arkansas Gazette. Maybe it seems that way from here because covering the Arkansas Razorbacks these days would give deja vu to anybody who had worked at the Gazette. The Arkansas Gazette then and the University of Arkansas Athletic Department now do bear similarities. Both had regimes of historic greatness finally coming to finishes that shouldn't have happened in the fashion they did. Replacing them bustled Yankees in suits. They came carrying cookie-cutter corporate concepts. And they came without any knowledge of Arkansas or Arkansans and with even less desire to learn. Why ask questions when you know you have all the answers? The newcomers, never understanding the Arkansas of the Arkansas Gazette, hastened the demise of the Pulitzer Prize-winning oldest newspaper west of the Mississippi. Of course, as long as there is a University of Arkansas, there will be Razorbacks. Nevertheless, not understanding the Arkansas prefacing Razorbacks can dissipate fast the foundation that Frank Broyles built on the working blueprint Broyles learned from John Barnhill. Both Barnhill and Broyles came from elsewhere, bearing change. Yet always they worked in concert with Razorback legends there before them, like George Cole and Glenn Rose, or those they added like Wilson Matthews, to understand and keep understanding what Arkansas is about. With new athletics director Jeff Long, it's been subtraction and no addition of Arkansas input, and it shows. Now, not everything about Jeff Long's tenure has been amiss. Most fans wax confident he hit a home run hire with head football coach Bobby Petrino. And Long is to be commended for his role in reuniting Nolan Richardson and the 1994 National Championship basketball team to Walton Arena during last season's Georgia game. It was a landmark event. Occasionally, it seems Long learns from mistakes. Since omitting Broyles from the football media guide, an omission as ludicrous as an Old Testament minus Moses, the Long regime has redeemed to profile Frank in every media guide of every sport. However, for the most part, it seems Long doesn't grasp what sets Arkansas apart, what builds this Razorback program and generates its passion. It is built on relating to Arkansas, all of Arkansas. He might have learned that had he heeded Broyles' speech at last September's Hall of Honor ceremonies. Broyles didn't talk revenue streams or the Razorback brand, Long's primary topics upon arrival, nor did he even cite the Hogs' most compelling triumphs. It was about relationships, relationships sustaining and burgeoning the program for generations. Relationships, Broyles said, I was able to build with the former players, the coaches, the press, and the fans. The only fans the Long regime seems interested in relating to are the ultra-wealthy. More egregious, in this view, is the privileged class here versus you peons out there philosophy permeating at home. Like the UA party on football signing day this year. Used to be all fans wishing to come were welcome to hear the head football coach discuss the recruiting class on football signing day. Not this past February, invitation only to the Razorback Foundation's high-level scholarship donors. Good thing for Long and his accompanying associates in suits that Wilson Matthews wasn't alive to see that. That earthy Arkie might have yanked them all by their neckties. Because Matthews, as fabled a fundraiser as he was fabled a football coach, knew the Razorbacks are as dependent on the dirt farmer and the dishwasher as they are on the wealthy. The statewide, all strata passion, seeing rich and poor and old and young talking Hogs with equal fervor and equal footing and calling the Hogs with equal pride, that's what unites Arkansas like nothing else. Lose that, and Arkansas loses it all. As for the press and former players, there's not much to relate inside the Broyles Center. The Broyles Center always was a very accessible public part of a very public state university. Now it operates like Dick Cheney's bunker. Media has been removed from the premises, and good luck on former players visiting football coaches on the second floor. Fort Knox is easier to penetrate. Even the museum in the Broyles Center is closed on football game days, the day when old grads best could show and tell their kids and grandchildren about where they played and what they did. Supposedly a purpose of that vice chancellor's title, prefacing Long's athletics director job description, is to make the athletic department seem more part of the U of A. Well, it has never seemed less. Good grief, it's so secretive that press was barred from attending something so innocuous as Petrino addressing last weekend's annual Razorbacks reunion. The late Orville Henry, the esteemed Arkansas Gazette sports editor, would be appalled. Of course, this bunch wouldn't know Orville Henry from Orville Redenbacher, nor care much how instrumental Henry's writing was in generating the interest constantly regenerating the Razorbacks. Frank Broyles wasn't perfect as AD or coach. He had his lapses and his mistakes, as do we all. But what he did and how he did it, based on relationships, worked Hall of Fame well for Arkansas for 50 years. How long for Arkansas will continuing these current corporate cookie-cutter concepts work? Well, if the Arkansas Gazette is an accurate barometer, not for long and not for capital L, long. Obviously, Nate was right then, and he's right where he should be now, joining the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame. I'm thrilled to welcome my old friend.
Well, I'm glad to be. Whoops. Why me?
Let's hear it for Dave Allen.
Yeah, glad I dropped in, but certainly glad to be here and not Lawrence, Kansas tonight after that. Don, I want to thank you so much for your wonderful introduction. You've already proven yourself a Hall of Fame sports writer, author, and UCA professor, and now by making me look good, you've obviously established a claim in the Fiction Hall of Fame. Thanks to your confidence boost, I've almost stopped looking for Steve Harvey to dash in from emceeing Miss Universe and yanking this microphone and going, this is also all a mistake. You've not been inducted to the Arkansas Sportswriters Hall of Fame. But as a consolation prize, here's a Family Feud game you can play at home. And over there, my brother and sister are going, hell, our family played Family Feud at home long before anyone discovered the show or Richard Dawson. For your introduction, Donna, knowing as an Arkansas Gazette colleague that you also idolize Hall of Fame writer Jim Bailey, it reinforces to me that really I'm being inducted into this Hall of Fame for the second time. The first was back when this hall was being formed, and Jim told me I'm Hall of Fame worthy. No doubt with his kindness, Jim temporarily sprouted the Pinocchio's nose, but for me, praise from Jim was more than enough to think myself inducted and not think about it again until Mike Harrison called this spring. Ironically, Mike called my cell phone while I was in Little Rock about to visit Jim and Jim's wife Peggy, as they became the first, other than my wife Nancy, to learn I was headed to this Hall of Fame. I've never read a better writer than Jim, and I can't imagine I ever will. Back when we were more a country that read great writing over following twits a tweet, Jim was revered. I remember bringing Jim to Rogers Rec, the still ongoing pool hall in Fayetteville, after a Razorbacks basketball game, while a gathering of some of the University of Arkansas's renowned creative writing department faculty were there, like Jim Whitehead and Bill Harrison and Otto Selassie. They were also quaffing a beer post-game, and when I brought in Jim, they responded to him like I'd brought in Shakespeare, which was the sports writing equivalent I had. Jim is ill and can't be with us tonight, but his wife Peggy is here and their son Bobby, and I'm so honored that they are here representing Jim tonight. To be inducted in, or to be included in a Hall of Fame of greats I worked with or for or competed against, including Jim, Orville Henry, Wadey Moore, Donna, Harry King, Wally Hall, Clay Henry, Joe Mosby, and of course David McCollum, whom we have just lost and missed so deeply, truly is my equivalent to an actor receiving an Oscar, and I treat it as such. In fact, upon learning I would receive this honor, I've been tormenting my family by saying I've seen enough wigged out Oscar acceptance speeches to know, I'm going to thank the little people. Then I told them I was going to do the same tonight. So for the record, I'd like my wife Nancy, right over there, and at our family's table, my brother Tom, sister Vicky, son David, daughter Kim, son-in-law Odie, and our grandchildren CJ, Jordan, Odie, and Olivia, to know that indeed you are the biggest people in my life, and you always have and always will be. I want them all also to know that I haven't forgotten those no longer with us, including Nancy's parents, Wes and Helen Gordon, who have been gone since 1988 and 1991, yet still live on in Fayetteville amid conversations from so many fondly remembering their impact. Of course, I cite my father and my mother, Vic and Betty Allen, who spent their life bewildered by, but standing by, their wayward third child. And I can never forget their financial support and their patience of Job support that my parents provided, putting through college a son that all my math and foreign language teachers unanimously survived, never should have reached junior high. I lost my place, which figures. I certainly want to also remember my oldest brother, Greg, who, though 10 years older, made his little brother feel like a peer when we lived in New Jersey, taking me to ball games at Yankee Stadium and the Polo Grounds and pitching wiffle ball and just acting, unforgettably, that we'll still miss. And I remember my Uncle Dave, a newspaper man and renowned boxing writer and jazz writer, setting a path followed both by me and my sister, Vicki. Vicki recently retired as an editor after being a longtime reporter in Washington covering Congress for Reuters News Service. I thank them all for their support and their love. Also want to thank Nancy for making this award possible. Aside from providing all the spousal love and support that all of us married folk tend to take for granted, but never should, she literally is responsible for the 2001 through present portion of my sports writing career. Because upon for the second time leaving a job I thought I would have until my career's conclusion, Nancy came to the front with the career-saving suggestion that I go independent covering the Razorbacks by starting the Nate Allen Sports Service for any publication that would have me. Without Nancy, I'd be 18 years career past tense and as likely to be elected to this Hall of Fame as John L. Smith to the Razorbacks Hall of Honor. Actually, Nancy saved my career long before that. When newspapers switched to the Mac laptops we've now long used but utterly baffled me back then, I told her I just can't adjust, I can't learn it. So Nancy handed me a broom and said, "Here, take this to Walmart. Maybe they'll let you sweep up." But I've seen you sweep, so I doubt if they hire you for that either. You'd better learn the computer. And I have, well, somewhat, kind of, sort of, with a lot of ongoing help. Now, before indulging myself in this stunning 15 minutes of fame, I need to acknowledge the honor of entering the Sportswriters and Sportscasters Hall of Fame with Hall of Fame sportscaster Dave Woodman, and acknowledge the incomparable Sidney Moncrief as tonight's keynote speaker. Dave, I've known you since my 1973 arrival to Arkansas, and can vouch that no one ever delivered a smoother sportscast or smoother play-by-play, or with more red-headed enthusiasm. Implacably red-headed. I still remember an Arkansas versus Texas Tech football game in Lubbock. It wasn't just Bob Dylan blowing in the wind. Coattails were flapping, tumbleweeds tumbling, and debris flying. Everything was blowing in that West Texas wind, even the paint off the buildings, it seems. Yet on that pregame field strode Dave Woodman and Jimmy Johnson, the Arkansas defensive coordinator of later Dallas Cowboys and NFL analyst fame. And as the prairie wind swept, on neither did a strand of hair budge anywhere. Mel Kiper would have envied them. Billy Graham, too, had he been there. Well, unfortunately, Sidney's gone, but I did want to note that I had the privilege of covering Sidney during his Razorback days, and can assert without question that I never saw an athlete impact Arkansas like Sidney did, and still does to anyone who saw him play. It doesn't speak well of me or even the great sports writers deservedly shrined ahead of me that of the thousands of words I wrote on Sidney Moncrief. The most descriptive was penned by the late Roger Ketter, the proprietor of Rogers Rec on Dixon Street. But taped to that pool hall's then lone TV perched above the bar, Roger wrote, "Basketball tonight, Chicago Bulls versus Sidney." And Roger summarized that in a sentence what the rest of us couldn't write for decades. Getting back, getting back to those Oscars, which must be in there somewhere. I've lost my place, but I always rolled my eyes about the award winners thanking so many people. Now, upon receiving my own one and only ever award, I know why. Especially this year, I've been both diagnosed with and so far successfully treated for cancer, plus briefly laid off from one of my jobs, but rescued by readers apparently so terrified I'd end up on their couch that they successfully pleaded for my reinstatement. So I want to first thank my dentist, Dr. Walt Henderson, during a routine checkup for instantly realizing that what I thought was just a canker sore was likely cancer and ordering the biopsy that periodontist Dr. Pierce Osborne confirmed. I need to thank my doctor, Dr. Al Gordon, for recommending me to UAMS, and thank UAMS surgeons Dr. Emery Varral and Dr. Mauricio Moreno in their 10 hours taking me apart and putting me back together again, minus the malignancy. And thank UAMS Administrator Joe Smith for guiding us through the first-time maze of UAMS, and thank the nurses and staff at UAMS that treated and continue so competently and courteously treating and monitoring my health. Also want to thank Claudia at Elite Home Health for her help when we came home, and of course to Nancy as the best ever head nurse without a nursing degree. And finally, thanks to my speech therapist, Amanda Hedrick. Amanda can't help it that I'm still built like Buddy Hackett was built, but thanks to her, I no longer exactly sound like Buddy Hackett sounded, which was kind of like a gorilla gargling with marbles in his mouth. And I need to thank my neighbor, Sandy Hubbard, whose expertise in social media, which I don't have since I don't even follow social media, for launching the Facebook campaign to keep me in the newspaper and not on your couch. Aside from my family, I can start thanking going back to Miss Jones, my second grade teacher in New Jersey, for starting the second grade Times. We were supposed to offer a few sentences here or there about things happening in the home or in the neighborhood, but I would write how the Yankees did or what the Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Giants were moving to Los Angeles and San Francisco. By the end of the year, I was called sports editor. It marked a career zenith, for I'd never been called editor of anything since. It marked my academic zenith, too, because arithmetic quickly became more complex than 2 + 2, and I would later be doomed spending summers in remedial algebra and searches for X, whom I never wanted to seek in the first place. My twice annually fall and summer algebra and algebra 2 bargaining of I won't look for X if X won't look for me fell on deaf ears. I did have thanks to Miss Nissen, I did have a surprising sophomore year in English. Miss Nissen really thought I could write and promoted me to this next junior year to the teacher who was supposed to be the best until she saw me. And she, by October, said, I really don't know what you're doing here. Maybe you could learn a trade. Perhaps you could make change at a 7-Eleven. Thereupon my algebra and geometry teachers from summer school past stepped forward and said, no, that wouldn't be a good idea either. He's been mathematically brain dead since 3rd grade long division. He can't make change. My bleak future took a turn by my father retiring and moving us to Joplin, Missouri, where my parents had come from. Of course, I made that move my senior year in high school from New Jersey to Missouri, kicking and screaming and not wanting to leave. I owe it to my brother Tom for talking me back into attending Joplin's Memorial High after I walked out of it in the middle of my first day. Turned out that move saved my future. I not only met friends for life in Joplin, as I still have from New Jersey and of course in Arkansas, but with Mr. Coopersmith and Mrs. Weeman, I had an English teacher and creative writing teacher who either thought I had some talent or more likely figured out that I was hopeless than anything else. Apparently it fulfilled their professional teacher's oath to encourage me to do whatever it was I felt they could do. Between those teachers' encouragement and being an in-state resident, the University of Missouri reluctantly accepted me for admission. Now, unlike my son David, a fine student at the University of Arkansas grad, and my daughter Kim, a straight A UA grad and straight A UA master's graduate, the only A that I ever received was the first letter of my last name. But with economics, the closest to a math course among the pre-journalism requirements, I did manage to fare better than I thought, better than I ever had in high school, and got a degree somehow from the Mizzou's renowned School of Journalism. As few of you know, or none have any reason to care, I was actually a broadcast major rather than print major. And as any of my newspaper colleagues would suspect to have seen me befuddled by or enraged at and conspired against by technology in general and computers in particular, I also had zero skill with cameras and tape editing and film editing. So when employed via classes at the school's TV and radio stations, with the encouragement of classmates, knowing I could write and talk passively, but would handicap them doing anything else, would slip into the writing and reporting the news and dodge the rest. Years after the fact, a Missouri journalism professor became enraged when two of my old classmates, Dave Edmark, who was sitting at that table right there, who went on to also live in Arkansas, and Rob Davis ratted me out as the J School's only broadcast graduate who never edited tape or shot usable film. So Steve Harvey might also yank my college diploma while he's yanking this microphone. Despite my tape editing sham, I did learn a lot at Mizzou, but learned the most from my junior and senior years covering Mizzou sports in Columbia from my hometown Joplin Globe, and especially my summer Globe internship. I wish the Globe sports editor Wendell Redden and his assistants Tom Murray and Jim Moss were still with us to thank. That summer in Joplin, I became friends with Larry White, a news reporter at the Globe, originally from Gravette, and headed that 1972 August to become the sports editor of the Springdale News. I graduated the following spring. Larry brought me to Arkansas with managing editor Jim Morrison's approval. Larry gave me the chance to cover the Razorbacks and call Arkansas home, for which a day doesn't go by that I don't silently thank him, as Larry and his family now live in Dallas. I had I can't even read my own writing, which doesn't surprise. Later, coming out from the New York area and after visiting, I also want to thank Ish Haley, who before moving on to Dallas had the Arkansas Gazette's Fayetteville position and was so helpful to me straight out of college on the beat. Coming from the New York area and after visiting my brother Greg and his family in San Francisco, I thought an East Coast paper or the San Francisco Chronicle would fulfill my dream job. Turns out my dream became Arkansas, even when Sports Illustrated called. Of course, Sports Illustrated just called to say my subscription was expiring. But hey, even had they called offering a job instead of a fleece pullover, I don't think I would have gone. For I've never lived in a better place than Fayetteville or a state I love like Arkansas, and don't believe I could find better even had I traveled the world over. I had a great 3 years at the Springdale News and worked 2 of them with Mike Gascony, who, like Donna, went from sports writing to become an author and renowned college professor, and his son Al now is a longtime editor in Jacksonville, Florida. And I would work with him during my eventual return to the paper 14 years later. My second Springdale tenure, I worked with Otis Kirk, previously my recruiting source, keeping me afloat whenever I had to cover recruiting at the Arkansas Gazette, and then keeping my sports service afloat when I was sidelined several weeks last fall. And I worked with Grant Hall, formerly the fine sports editor at the Northwest Arkansas Times, here tonight, and whose Episcopal minister father-in-law, Jack Shoemaker, officiated when Nancy and I got married. The last 2, 1974 and 75 years of my first Springdale tenure also was a Fayetteville-based Razorback stringer for the Arkansas Democrat. That's how I came to Orville Henry's attention, and we've become the 1976 Fayetteville-based newbie on the Hall of Fame staff with Jim Bailey, the best who ever wrote, Wadey Moore, the legend of Arkansas high school sports, who's here tonight, James Thompson running the desk, and Ralph Baldwin in the slot, and of course Orville, the icon of Arkansas journalism, who knew his readers better than anyone anywhere, as did the icon he wrote most about, Frank Broyles. Nobody knew Arkansas like Orville Henry and Frank Broyles knew Arkansas. That the corporate outsiders succeeding Orville at the paper and succeeding Frank at the university paid zero attention to their experienced wisdom, cost the Arkansas Gazette its life, and likely cost the Razorbacks 10 years of eroding relationships, potentially diminishing what formed the most uniquely personalized unifying force in our state. So it is with optimism that I see a change at the top in the athletic department leadership, putting Arkansas back in the Razorbacks. I think Orville would approve. Orville's insight describing the Razorbacks' big pictures that Frank Broyles, Lou Holtz, Eddie Sutton, Norman Richardson, John McDonald, and Norm DeBryan were painting brought their pictures into Arkansas Focus. I'm so honored that some of that focuses on us here tonight. Norm, I'm kind of glad I overslept the pancake breakfast that you and Don White had on 4th of July, because I might have accidentally blabbed about the honor you just received. And I think Mike Harrison will vouch that I was as happy to learn of Norm being honored tonight as I am for myself. John McDonald, by the 42 national championship numbers, the greatest NCAA coach in any sport. Dean Weber, the crusty but heart of gold trainer so beloved that the 1979 football seniors endowed a scholarship in his name. And Norm, also a Hall of Famer, building the baseball program from scratch to national runner-up and perpetual and in the Baum Stadium, are the only ones preceding my Arkansas rivals still actively tied to the Razorbacks, and it's an unbelievable honor that they are here tonight. And of course also here tonight, Ken Hatfield, a comparable Razorback coach and player, Kevin Trainer, who the best SID turned assistant athletic director or associate athletic director, whatever the hell the title is, I can't remember what. And Scott Verity, who has the thankless task of tapping people for money and does it so well that people give willingly. And I'm so honored that all of them would come tonight. Getting back to Orville and Frank, most of their egos would have ultimately failed because their egos are so enormous, yet that's what made both succeed. Orville once wrote that Frank was so optimistically confident that Frank could be getting run out of town and think he's leading a parade. And Orville bubbled with the celebrity of being Orville. I remember in 1998 when Houston Nuts Razorbacks played in the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. Orville was driving from an Arkansas practice back to the hotel with several of us as passengers when there was much honking and waving as we drove by. "Even in Orlando," Orville said. Of course, Orville was oblivious that the honking stemmed from him driving the wrong way down a one-way street with a construction zone, and that some of the waving included extended middle fingers from workers diving for their lives into trenches and open manholes. Among the reasons that Orville and Frank succeeded, they were so confident in themselves that they could hire the best without worry of being overshadowed. It's no coincidence that so many in this Hall of Fame have Orville Henry on their resumes. The years with Orville brought home to me the perspective of covering the Razorbacks. Certainly you covered the Razorback beats, warts and all, reporting on the bad and the good and the gray areas and trying to do the same as fairly but as candidly as you could when expressing opinions through a column. But you always covered the Razorbacks, respecting that they, not you, are the story. Big as they were, Frank and Orville never felt they were bigger than Arkansas. That's why both succeeded 50 years in Arkansas and why the Razorbacks succeeded with them. I made many lifelong friends at the Gazette, including Paul Borden, who ironically was brought in by the new ownership to change the old Gazette ways, but became so horrified with the direction taken by the higher-ups in Little Rock that he gave up the sports editor's job and moved to Fayetteville to cover the Hogs. But with James Thompson out of sports, Orville moving to the Democrat, and from Little Rock leadership and competence mushroomed, with Paul out of the paper, with Paul moved to Fayetteville, and the product, as the Corporal Weasels called the paper, obviously and deservedly fast losing the newspaper war, I looked for a place to land. Thanks in large part to the recommendation made by Bob Douglas and the former Arkansas Gazette managing editor and UA Journalism Department Chairman, the Don Ray Media executive Ross Pendergraph, I was hired in 1990 to be the Razorback Bureau for Don Ray's newspapers in Springdale, Rogers, Fort Smith, and Pine Bluff. Like so many others who kept my career afloat, I wish that Bob and Ross were still here to thank. And I do thank Gene Kinsey, who was the publisher at Springdale when I signed on, for all he did during my Don Ray years before I moved on. That's when Nancy encouraged me to go independent and start the Nate Allen Sports Service, which likely not have been possible without the base at Jeff Jeffest, then with the Democrat Gazette and Palmer Media publishers Buddy King at Hot Springs, and Tim Llewellyn at El Dorado provided. From there it expanded, including the last couple of years, to papers I used to work for, Fort Smith and Pine Bluff and here in Conway. I'm so grateful to have worked for such great editors like David McCollum at the Log Cabin Democrat, Bob Weisner at the Seminole Record in Hot Springs, Tony Burns in El Dorado, Fred Conley in Forest City, Jeff Brazel in Harrison, Terry Hawkins in Dumas, and Sonny Elliott at Mountain Home, and publishers like Barnard McCollum at Forest City and the late Frank Lightfoot at Whitehall, and so many others. It's been an honor both to work with and compete against Bob Holt and Tom Murphy, great writers and great people daily covering the Razorbacks for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and also Scott Kane, a brilliant Democrat-Gazette reporter who showed how smart he is by going into the business world and getting out of journalism. Writing so many local features for so many Arkansas dailies and weeklies gave me an even greater appreciation of the uniqueness of our state and the Razorback ties that bind it. It also makes me all the more appreciative of this award, not only as I receive it tonight, but especially the hope that others receive it 10, 15, 20 years hence and infinitely more. For that means we still have newspapers, and to me that's our democracy's best hope. Thomas Jefferson once wrote, "A government without newspapers or newspapers without government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter." That rang true then and rings even truer today with newspapers' existence menaced by the internet and smartphones and our society's pretentiousness. It's dismaying when I hear someone say, "Well, I'm just too busy to read a newspaper." Really, we're too busy texting and tweeting and trivializing to be responsible citizens willing to keep up with our city councils and school boards and planning commissions and state and national government. Politically, it seems we're polarizing extreme left and extreme right, with one fringe only watching MSNBC and the other Fox News, and both damning everything in the middle as fake news or mainstream mindless and spineless. The internet's become a haven for crackpot conspiracy theorists and sites attracting emphatic dogmatic, or actually timidly insecure as they fear to look at any point of view but what feeds into their own. But the newspaper, just by its layout and ability for the reader to turn pages, has a chance to expand horizons. The guy that only reads it for sports may accidentally chance on an editorial or front page story or feature that captures his attention. And the pseudo-intellectual fancying that he or she presents a greater public intellect by smugly bad-mouthing sports, and those who follow them may perchance find there's some damn good writing on the sports page and relevance too. It's been said that Jackie Robinson maybe did as much or more for civil rights and racial relations than Martin Luther King. In Martin Luther King's words, there was no maybe about it. Jackie Robinson made that success possible, Martin Luther King said. Without him, I never would have been able to do what I did. Right here, or, well, I did here until he left, look at Sydney and recall overhearing some I suspected to have prejudice, telling their sons to be more like Sydney, not just Sydney the ball player, but Sydney the man. That enlightenment transcending color came in part from reading the sports page. So I urge you, while it's fashionable to call newspapers dying and irrelevant, to read them and teach your children and grandchildren to read them. And if along the way you read me, so much the better. Not that reading my stuff's going to enrich your life. It certainly won't unless you have a birdcage to line or fish to wrap. But it will keep me employed and off your couch. And after putting up with me this long this night, I'm presuming that's a threat you'll take seriously. In the meantime, please be assured that your patience and the efforts of all producing the magnificent program and dinner, and especially the magnitude of this award, and those who have earned it ahead of me, have made this evening an honor that I and my family will treasure forever. We thank you, and we thank Mike Harrison, and thank the board with more than mere words can express. So with that, I bid you all one last heartfelt thank you, and good night.
Let's hear it for Nate Allen. Thank you very much, Nate. You deserve that. Congratulations on being inducted in the Arkansas Sportscaster and Sportswriter Hall of Fame. We have one more inductee, the induction of Dave Woodman. Let's watch the video.
John Taylor will hold. The crowd anticipates this. They're up. They applauded Little's kicking show before the game as he warmed up. They know that there's a strong wind. This one will be 61 yards, and it is long enough. It's long enough. It is good. Good. Steve Little has just kicked a career high, only 4 yards below the national record. Steve Little with a 61-yard field goal has tied this ball game with 3 minutes and 56 seconds left to play in the second quarter.
And the road is long in the blinking of an eye. That moment's gone, and when it's done, win or lose, you always did your best. 'Cause inside you knew that in one shining moment you reached deep inside. One shining moment.
I think it'll be him running or throwing to that wide receiver.
Anybody's guess what's going to happen here. Jarius Wright is going to be the quarterback. And again, he is all alone in the Lumberjack backfield.
Receiver on the right side.
Game's on the line right here. This is it. They make it, they win. They don't make it, they lose. Wright keeps. He dives toward the goal line. He did not get in. He got to the goal line. Nashville wins. Nashville wins the 4A High School State Football Championship. Pandemonium breaks out among the players and the fans.
'Cause inside you knew in one shining moment you reached for the sky. In one shining moment you knew, yeah. In one shining moment you're willing to try. In one shining moment you knew. One shining moment.
We owe Dave Woodman a lot from here at the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame. The first 2 years, the master of ceremonies was Dave Woodman. We started at a small place at Ryan's Steakhouse. They went to the University of Central Arkansas, and we appreciate you by helping us get that off the ground here at the Hall of Fame. And to present Dave into the Arkansas Sportscaster and Sportswriter Hall of Fame, another legend when it comes to weather. One of the outstanding weathermen, Tom Bonner.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mike. Dave, I'd forgotten how good you are. I'm serious. That play-by-play, it's a well-known. Now, we got a bunch of your broadcast friends over here. You're going to introduce them in a minute. You guys all know, seriously, in broadcasting, it is a known fact that the most difficult thing in the world to do is play-by-play. You try it sometime. One of these young ladies a while ago talking about her father and how he learned. You turn the TV down with a ball game on and try to call it yourself. Let me tell you, you were good. You are good still. That's my man right there. I didn't realize that we were going to have pictures of dialing for dollars either. Is anyone here old enough to remember when Dave and I were on dialing for dollars? Look at that, man. Look at all that gray hair out there, holding up their hands. Well, I have a confession to make. I really have to straighten something out. I used to have to stand on a Coke box next to him. I want to make it clear to you all that I'm 5 feet 10 inches tall. That's a normal male height. I was going to ask Sidney Moncrief to come up here and stand and have these two stand together. There you are. Look. He is. Where's my Coke box? All right. Now the Dialing for Dollars host is here right now. That show is still on the air, by the way, on Channel 4. Did you know that? Pat is here. Pat, I want you to go back to the... And Aaron Nolan is here. You're going to introduce all these guys, and I'm a huge fan of all you, Bob Clausen and Ashley Katz. But Pat, I want you to go back to the prop room and find that Coke box with my name on it. I want it back. okay? I could use it tonight. Thank you, buddy. I'm just in awe of all the talent here tonight. I really am. Nate's one of my favorite writers. I told him when we first were walking in the door, I'd never met him before. I love his columns. And I'm a huge fan of my man, Dave Woodman. I want to take just a brief moment and tell you how Dave Woodman's career progressed toward Little Rock and how Little Rock's TV station, Channel 4, progressed from where they were getting our brains beaten out at 6 and 10 p.m. every night to where we were in 1970, late in that year, and how those two met together in that synergy that happened. Dave, you might have read it in the program. He went. By the way, he went to Alabama. Did you know that? We won't take the award back, will we? With that revelation. Dave was working as he went to college. He was working, as many of us in the early days did. Some of you guys probably did too, Bob, at a small radio station on the campus. That's where you began to understand how to use a mic and everything. After he graduated from college, he went to CSN-TV in Montgomery, Louisiana, a very small station, but at least he was excited. He was in the venue. And back in those days, we tried to become what we referred to as a classically trained announcer. You became an announcer first, and then you went to a TV station and determined what their need was, and depending, you could become the newscaster or the sportscaster, or if you were really intelligent, a weatherman. And Dave Woodman was at WSFA learning and finding out about himself. He was there for a brief time, and he made a big career move up to a bigger station, still a small market by comparison to Little Rock, but a good station, KNOE-TV in Monroe, Louisiana. Dave stayed there for 12 years, and by his own description, and it's in the program tonight too, he paid his dues during those 12 years. That's a little euphemism in broadcasting that means he worked 10 years in a row in succession doing Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and the 4th of July on the night shift for 10 years. He made his bones, as they say in the mafia. Anyway, Dave became a really great broadcaster then, and I don't know if it was at that point that he decided he liked sports better, but he did get a sports program before he left KNOE and came up to El Dorado, Arkansas, to a very fine television station that's just a step away from Little Rock on his progression up the ladder. That's KTVE in El Dorado. Dave actually was doing the news there, and he was doing some news management as well. Now I want to put a comma right there and tell you what was going on with Channel 4 in those days. We're talking about 1969 and 1970. Channel 4 was getting beaten badly. We'd been bought just a few months earlier by Mullins Broadcasting out of Denver, and they didn't want a losing newscast. The newscasts make more money than any other part of the television show comparatively. So they said, fix it. And they sent a man named Bob Brown in, 39 years old, a bachelor and a hardworking, good television man, to run KARK-TV. And Bob liked me. We got along well. I'd been working there for a few years. I was doing weekend weather at that time. Bob and I got along, and Bob said, Denver has told me to get that newscast fixed, and we got to change it. We're going to have to take everything out and start over again with a new format and all new people. And he said, at that time, he said, I want you to do the Monday through Friday weathercast. And I was thrilled to get that promotion. He said, now we got to find a newscaster, and we got to find a sports guy, and we got to find a news director, a person to manage the newsroom. So we put the word out and found a man who sent us a tape from Los Angeles, the ABC station out there. He said, I'm an Arkansan who wants to come back home. I've been here 10 years, and I'm tired of the rat race. He really was good on tape. His name was Roy Mitchell. And we hired Roy just on the viewing of that tape. So Bob says to me, that leaves two spaces. We need a news director and we need a sports guy. And he threw a copy of TV Guide. Remember the little magazine the size of Reader's Digest on my desk? And it had an ad in there for a man named Dave Woodman at KTVE in El Dorado. Good-looking guy, hair all in place, flaming red at the time. You were right about that, by the way. He's noted for that around TV stations. Anyway, we called him to Little Rock to talk about being the news director for the station because we knew he was in news management down there. He looked it over and said, I'm not interested because thank you anyway for the offer, but I want to be on the air. And I don't like the idea of just being behind the scenes all the time. And so we said, fine, that's good. As he started to leave the room, Bob Brown called after him. True story. Said, hey, Dave, what else can you do? And Dave turned around and said one word to him, sports. And that's how the Eyewitness News team was born. We auditioned him that afternoon, and he was, as you know, sensational already. And thus the news team was born, and we started the new format called an umbrella format at the time of not having one small show of news, 10 minutes, one small weathercast separately of 5 minutes, and another small show of 10 minutes of sports, each with its own announcer, its own set, and its own introduction in and out. We were doing something that they were already doing in a couple or three large markets, and they called it Eyewitness News, and that's what we decided to call ours. We stole that name. And we were scared to death because it was so radical a change, we didn't know what was going to happen. And we were replacing all the personalities who were on the air at the time. We went on the air in March of 1970, a dismal third before the show started. The sales department said, what's our plan B, man, if this doesn't work? And we said, we don't have a plan B. We got to make this work, right? Remember those? You remember how scared we were that night? People from Denver, our brass had come over from Denver, and they were all watching, and our knees were knocking. But the public loved that format, and the phone started ringing the next few days, and we realized we were onto something. And by the time the May book came out, guys, Bob, 2.5 months, you know the May book, all you guys are nodding their heads, yeah. The May book is the rating period for the month of May, and that was 2.5 months on the air for us. We were already #1, just by that much. And by the end of that year, we had numbers that equaled and even exceeded the other two stations combined. Some of the numbers you just won't, if you're in the business and understand ratings, you won't believe it today. But the secret was really, we didn't have any competition except just the other two stations. There was no cable to bother you, you know, and fragment that audience there. And we had it all alone, and all three stations had their newscasts on at the same time. So you just had to be a little bit better than the other guys, and you get it all. We were doing 50-something shares and 31 ratings. If that means anything, you hear the oohs and ahs over there. And that went on for, how long was it, 18 years? 18 years until Roy Mitchell passed away at an early age in 1989. And slowly we went our separate ways. But those were the glory years for us. It was just unbelievable. The recognition, the facial recognition, the name recognition, the reaction you get when you walked in a restaurant was just surreal, wasn't it? And I'm not bragging, I'm just saying something that was a fact. We were astounded. We couldn't believe it. We were joined in 79, about halfway through that run, by Carolyn Long, because it was time, actually, that women got involved. And believe it or not, it had been all men up to that point. And she was just like you, gorgeous and perfect on the air. And the ratings just loved that. They went up even more when she came on board. So that's all I have to say about it, except to tell you folks, whoever the committee who picks these awardees, picks these inductees, that you've made a wonderful choice this time, because Dave Woodman is probably the best sports announcer I ever knew in my life. I don't know of anybody better, network or otherwise, in my opinion. And in addition to that, he is one of the finest human beings. When he got off the plane, we flew him up here on Trans-Texas Airways from El Dorado. Remember TTA? No, you're not that old, are you? And he got off the plane and said, okay, how many Baptist churches are there in this town, and where's the nearest one to the station? And he's been a stalwart member of Emmanuel Baptist Church, very, very active ever since that day. And he's the kind of guy, I like to say, who is as nice to the fellow vacuuming the rug in the hotel lobby as he is to the man who owns the hotel. He's just that kind of guy. He'll introduce his family to you also in just a moment. So my job is done right now, except to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, your latest inductee into the Arkansas Sportscasters and Sportswriters Hall of Fame, and my dear friend of 48 years, here's Mr. Dave Woodman.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
You see why I need that Coke box now, don't you?
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Anybody need to go to the bathroom? I do, so I'm going to probably keep this short. Gosh, what a great evening. Tom Bonner, thank you very much. I have spent weeks writing this and rewriting it, and I rewrote the last draft yesterday, and then the whole thing's in the program. Thank you, Mike. I picked this thing up and started reading it, and it's like my obituary, except for... And if we were here much longer tonight, it might be. I don't know. It may be. Have we missed the deadline? Have we missed the deadline for the paper tomorrow and get my obituary in it? Golly, Mike says I have 15 minutes. I'm going to try to give him back some change, but no guarantees. I'm a blessed man, folks, and that's the way I want you to think of me when we leave this hall tonight. Needless to say, I'm blessed to be standing here in front of a crowd like this. I'm not going to go all the names of Razorback greats, except Ken Hatfield. What? Kenny, when you read scripture on your show on Sunday afternoon, I said, yeah, right on. Go, man, go. And you talk about a man who has a firm grip on everything in life, Ken Hatfield. And you guys who have come down to occupy the Razorback Foundation tables, God bless you for coming. We've got some luminaries here tonight, and they've already been introduced to you. I'm blessed to have this former colleague of mine. Now, I'm going to use this word blessed quite a few times while I'm talking to you tonight. That Tom would actually accept my invitation. We haven't really stayed really close. In fact, I had to go through my friend Kevin Purifoy to Pete Hornibrook to even find Tom and get a phone number from him. But he called me back. And I said, Tom, I'm being inducted into the Sportscasters and Sportswriters Hall of Fame. Would you introduce me? I'll be glad to. I would be honored. This is my friend. This is my colleague, Tom Bonner. I learned so much about my craft from this guy and from the aforementioned Roy Mitchell. What a pro he was. People still tell me we were a pretty good news team. I mean, I've been fully retired and off the air for 18 years. And the recognition factor, Tom gets it, and I get it, and everybody gets it. Bob Clausen gets it. This table full, I'm going to introduce them in a minute, but this table full of people, they get it, so they know what I'm talking about. So Tom, thanks for a lot of good years. Pete Hornibrook is with him tonight, so Pete, thank you for coming too. I'm blessed by this beautiful lady at my side. Her name is Lydia. She's my best friend. She's my inspiration. Ever since her family moved in next door to my family and me when we were 15 years old. She was out mowing the lawn. Can I tell them the story? I'm going to anyway. I was we had a screened-in porch that overlooked their house. And this pretty little girl was out there. Any of you remember the gym bloomers, the one-piece things that the girls used to wear in high school gym? She had her gym bloomers. She was barefooted, and she had orange juice can curlers in her hair and was pushing a lawnmower. And I thought she was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. 15 years old, and we just celebrated in April, we celebrated our 62nd wedding anniversary. She has been my rock. She supported me on many occasions when maybe she kind of wanted to throw up her hands and walk away, because I have made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I'm blessed by 4 wonderful children. 3 of them are here tonight. Our only son, Doug, is here from Pineville, Arkansas. Two of our three daughters are here. Sharon and her husband Rick DeLay, Stephanie and her fiance Johnny Swames are here. Leslie, our oldest daughter, has just undergone 3 very, very serious surgeries, and she's still recuperating in Memphis and could not be here. And guys, I just hope that you're as proud of me as I am of you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Now, my brother and sister-in-law, Carol, were coming from Alabama, but Bob called me yesterday morning and said he had fallen and didn't know why. And he banged his head on the corner of the porch and was kind of banged up, but not so much that, but he just didn't know why he had fallen. So about 11:30 last night, he decided he better go to the ER. And we talked to him as we were driving over here about 5 o'clock this afternoon, and he was still in the ER. And they were about to let him go home, but we're just hoping and praying nothing serious happened to them. Taking their seats at the family table are friends that we asked at the last minute, and they came, Vernon and Barbara Boyette. The other 2 seats are occupied by a couple of other friends of ours, Kevin and Patty Purifoy, and they're both in, all 4 of them in the Sunday school class that I try to teach. And I'll be standing up before them tomorrow morning, so I don't want to say anything that they might throw back at me tomorrow morning while I'm trying to teach the 16th chapter of Psalms tomorrow morning. I'm blessed that both lead anchors from Channel 4 are here tonight. Tom has already kind of alluded to Bob and Ashley. I know you all are familiar with Bob Clausen and Ashley Katz. Also, and Bob's lovely wife, Tammy, who is on the sales staff at Channel 4, a very good friend of ours. And Aaron Nolan, who happens to be Ashley Katz's husband and who also anchors the morning show and the noon show. And Kim Dunn has come from the station as well. So thank you all for supporting, and thanks to Channel 4 for making it possible for them to be here tonight. Oh, Pat Walker. Pat, I was surprised by Pat and Kim showing up, but Pat also, of course, he's kind of Aaron's cohort on the noon show. Pat is one of the Channel 4 meteorologists, a member of the Storm team, and he dials for dollars now. So we have a new generation of dialing for dollars in the room tonight. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. And I have a new mini career. I work at Little Rock Funeral Home. And my owner and friend, Brad Leggett, has bought a table and has brought in the funeral home limousine a complete table of our staff members from Little Rock Funeral Home. So Brad, thank you, and thank you guys and girls for being here to support me tonight. I appreciate that so much. But I expected them to support me. After all, we'll be the last to let you down. And we have an easy layaway plan. But no, that's enough funeral home humor tonight. And Brad will make me pay for that too. Okay. Moving right along with the blessed theme. I'm blessed that Mike and the board of directors of this great organization have selected me to join some legends and some professionals in our field. And a lot of them have already been named, but again, you have to cut me some slack. I wrote this thing and I rewrote it. I didn't know everybody was going to introduce everybody in the room. So, and I'm the last up here, so everybody's been introduced and everybody's been mentioned. But I'm going to start with Bud Campbell. Those of you who didn't know Bud, and he was killed in a car wreck in 1974, but a lot of us in this room still remember him. He set the standard for voices of the Razorbacks, people who called ourselves the voice of the Razorback. Everybody wanted to be, John McDonald may be the only one who remembers Bud, I don't know. Was he there when you came, John? I don't remember. Yeah, I think he was. Dean Weber. Dean remembers him, of course. But guys, he was the greatest. But then there are people like Orville Henry's been mentioned, Wally Hall's been mentioned. Of course, I think Wally's still alive. His column hadn't been in the paper in the last 4 or 5 days, so I'm not sure. But you know I read the obituaries every day to make sure I'm not in them, and Wally hadn't been there either. So I guess he's still around. Donna Lampkin Stevens, Donna finally got me in. She said she has voted for me every year since they started this thing. And when she pinned the rose on me, she said, finally got you in. Thank you. So thank you, Donna. I guess it's kind of like being in a jury room after a trial, you know? You got 12 people who've got to be unanimous in their verdict, and Donna always held out. Thank you, Donna, and thanks to the board, seriously, for this great honor. Super Sid. Sidney? Sidney's told you that his mom died. He had to get back to Little Rock, but Sidney Moncrief may have played a part without knowing it in my early dismissal as the voice of the Razorbacks. See, I was broadcast. I got to tell you, for those of you who didn't hear me, I got involved. One time down at Tulane when we were behind and the Razorbacks were making a charge. Remember the old 100 million watt radio stations down on the Texas border? And the evangelist would say, put your hands on the radio. That's what I said that night. The Razorbacks were making a comeback, and I said, they're coming back. They're going to win this game. If you believe, put your hands on the radio. And you know, a lot of people told me they did. They really did. But that's just to say I got involved. The 73 season, I think, Nate, no, I wasn't there in 73. 74, 75 season, when we were still playing in Barnhill and there was sawdust on the floor and about 300 people showed up for the games. It was Eddie Sutton's first year. We were playing Texas Tech, and I think we went 3 overtimes, I'm not sure. And people have told me, and I realized it, I don't know how I got up there, but I was standing on the broadcast table by the time that 3 overtimes was over. I don't remember going up there. But I was standing there and I was screaming into the microphone, and they had a guy named Rick Bullock. He was about 6'9", and he was their leading scorer. He was their big guy. And Rick Bullock fouled out in the 3rd overtime. And the crowd was all over him, as you might imagine. And I described his departure from the floor in this way. And Rick Bullock fouls out, giving a double middle finger salute to the Arkansas crowd. But I say that just to set up this story. It had snowed during the Arkansas-Houston game. It started snowing at halftime. It was a Saturday night. And by the time we got out of there was so much snow. My driver and photographer was Jim Casey, and he was crazy. But Jim said, well, I've been listening to the CB radio, and Highway 71's closed. They got trucks jackknifing on the road, and we can't get back on Highway 71. How about the pig trail? I said, well, Jim, you're driving, buddy. And he was in a van, and we stopped at a little convenience store and we loaded up all the gas that thing would hold, so it would be as heavy as possible. We got some crackers and soda, so if we got stranded, we'd have something to eat before we froze to death. But we started back over and we came back to Little Rock, and on Monday we played Texas Tech again, I think, and we had to drive back, and there was ice on the highway between here and Alma. I don't know how in the world Casey ever made it, but nevertheless we did. And we got up there and we learned that none of the print media had even left. They were all there. By that time, Orville had discovered basketball, by the way, Nate. It took him a while, but he discovered basketball, and Orville and all the writers stayed in Fayetteville. They even allowed the 2 officials, only 2 at that time, the 2 officials to stay. And the conference had a rule. No official was supposed to work the same team 2 games in a row. But because of the snow, and the Houston team hadn't been able to get out because they had flown into Fort Smith, changed into their uniforms and warm-ups, and had ridden a bus to Fayetteville, and they couldn't get back to Fort Smith. So they'd spent the night on the floor in a dormitory somewhere, I think, wearing their sweaty uniforms and their... But anyway, it was a terrible situation. But my photographer and I got back up there, and we were doing the game, and great game, and all of a sudden, Sidney makes a steal, okay? Man, I wish he was here. Sidney makes a steal, and he starts down the floor in the other direction, and an opposing player starts to cut him off. Sidney goes up for the layup. Here's the call. Sidney Moncrief makes the steal. He breaks away all the way down the court. He's up for the layup. It's good! What do you mean, no basket? And the official went, boop, boop, called an offensive foul on Sidney. Well, I couldn't let it go. I said, well, you know, it snowed up here, and they let these officials stay up here over the weekend, and I bet they're snowblind by now. That was really not the smartest thing I could have said, because in about 3 weeks, I got a call from Coach Broyles. Dave, Frank, hey, Coach, how you doing? How was the NCAA convention? Fine, you're fired. Well, but it's been fun. You know, this career, it has been so great. But just looking around this room, you know, I was a Tennessee Ernie Ford fan, and I think as he's looking out over this room, my friend Tennessee Ernie Ford would say, man, I am at the trough with a tall bunch of hogs tonight. And I am. I just appreciate all of you being here. To be inducted with these two guys, man, Nate Allen, I can't describe, words can't describe what a great writer this guy is. I mean, gifted, as you could tell by, and I was watching the group from Fayetteville over here, especially Kevin Trainer, while Donna was reading that column, and I noticed a hint of discomfort because you were there when this was all going on, and Scott, but gosh, what a great, and Cliff, they didn't wait to induct us posthumously, and I appreciate that. Wow. Continuing with the blessed theme, and I've kind of gotten off that track. That boat sailed. I'm blessed to have been born to two loving, supporting parents. I mean, everything I did, they let me know about, whether it was good or if it was bad. But they were trying to build my character, and hopefully they were successful. And you know what? I am blessed to have been born in the greatest nation on the face of this earth, the United States of America. This is a country where, thank you. This is a country where a young person can be anything that he or she wants to be. All it takes is just a desire, a little motivation, and a lot of hard work. And so many of our young people aren't willing to put in the hard work. They need to be educated to that it doesn't come naturally. It doesn't come as a gift. You got to get out and you got to work for it. And I think every person in this room can attest to that. I used to think I was lucky. In the right place at the right time. And so many of you, I'm sure, can say the same thing. But as I have matured, and I prefer the word matured to aged, as I have matured, I've decided that there is no such thing as luck. What we call luck or coincidence is really God's timing and often His intervention in our lives. I guess the first perfect timing event was in 1946 when my dad, not long out of the Navy Seabees after World War II, joined the civil engineering faculty at the University of Alabama, moved us from Ruston, Louisiana to Tuscaloosa, where my life and career began to develop. And the second occurred just 4 years later, when this young lady entered my life, and I've already described how that happened. The third, though, was on a summer day 2 years after that. I was 17. I just graduated from high school. I was so smart they let me start when I was 5. I was 17 and I had just graduated from high school. I didn't have a clue about motivation or goal setting. I learned that later. So the attendant, boy, that really dates me. The attendant at a service station, are you kidding? He was gassing the car, and somehow my dad spotted the director of the broadcast services at the University of Alabama, and my dad was a con man. I told you he was a civil engineer. He was a con man, and he conned that guy into promising to give me an audition. Well, I'm sure he went back to the station and he told his program director, a guy named Walt Whitaker, he said, call this kid, or no, this kid's going to call you. Audition him and, send him on his way because, 17-year-old kid. But instead, after he listened to me, he offered me a summer job filling in for an announcer who was going away to ROTC camp, and they didn't promise me anything other than that summer job. And I was basically a nerdy classical music disc jockey and station break reader. It was an FM educational station with very few listeners because there weren't very many FM radios at that time. We're talking 1952. But hey, I was 17 years old. I was on the radio, and they paid me $50 a month for it. I was on my way. And I kept that summer job all 4 years that I was in college, went into television when we got into the Educational Television Network in Alabama. But the kindest word that I can think of to describe my academic career is disaster. Attending classes was not nearly as appealing as hanging out at the radio station or in a booth in the coffee shop talking football with a quarterback named Bart Starr. Perhaps you've heard of him. I became interested in live show production. Live network shows were the big, remember Studio One and GE, no you don't. Studio One, GE Theater and shows like that. That's what I really wanted to do. But when you drop out of school and need a job and CBS has not called yet, then you do what opportunity presents. And that was, as Tom mentioned, WSFA-TV in Montgomery, Alabama. As a staff announcer, and Tom and I are probably the only ones in the room who even know the definition of staff announcer. They don't exist anymore. So, I'm off and running. Lydia's 100 miles away. My 50 Ford wasn't that dependable. So on my 21st birthday, she became my wife. And I want you to know my life changed forever in that 1 year. I was married. I had a good job, doing substitute sports anchoring, even some live commercials for $5 talent fees. Big time, big time. I was on my way. But then along came this great offer that I could not refuse, an offer to move to a market about half the size for $4 a week more. Now, why in the world would anybody do that? And Lydia was 8.5 months pregnant with Doug. That move didn't make much sense at the time. But it turned out not to be as foolish as it sounds because I was given my own sports show. I did high school and college play-by-play. The talent fees improved a little bit. I think they went up to $6, I'm not sure. But those 12 years that Tom referred to that I spent at KNOE in Monroe were a seasoning time. It was a dues-paying time, as he mentioned. We also joined a great church, and we were able to get our spiritual lives back on track. They'd been neglected for a while, but after those 12 years, I just didn't feel fulfilled. Any of you go through that? Have you had a career that you just felt was not fulfilling and you felt you needed to do something else? Well, along came this fabulous opportunity to get rich selling motivational tapes and programs. Turned out I turned him a notice, and I went head first into this fantastic opportunity. Now, I got to tell you, commission sales has worked well for millions of people, but I just wasn't one of them. That was one of several times when my rock over here on my left had doubts about my sanity, but she says through all of that, because we were broke. Kids were too young to understand it, even Doug, who was the oldest, I guess. Daddy, can we go to the circus? No. Daddy, can we have an ice cream cone? No. Why? Because we don't have any money. That's why. But that was a low time in my career. But again, Lydia says she never considered divorce. Murder, maybe. and no jury in the country would have convicted her. Guys, don't ever make a major decision, a life-changing decision, even about where you're going to eat dinner tonight without consulting your wife. It just does not pay off. The couch was uncomfortable for a long time after that. I mean, we were okay. We just had the luxuries that we couldn't take care of at the time: food, clothing, shelter. But that brush with failure was part of a great plan, a divine master plan for my life. I didn't know it at the time. I couldn't see that at the time, but God gives us 20/20 hindsight, doesn't he? we can look back and we see these things in our lives that were crossroads. Yogi Berra said, when you get to the fork in the road, take it. And that probably was pretty good advice. Not bad. But I didn't know what to do, so I got on my knees and I prayed. So often we use prayer as a last resort, right? When it should be our first line of defense. And the very next day, I happened to be downtown with my little sample case with my tapes and recorder and everything in it and trying to decide. So I saw a sign that said KTVE, and that sign just turned around and it hypnotized me. Well, we called KTVE the number 3 station in a 2-station market. But boy, at that time, that sign looked pretty good. So I crawled up the front steps and asked to see the general manager, went into his office, and he said, what are you doing here? And I said, I need a job. And he said, I got a job for you. I said, great, what am I going to be doing? When do I start? Am I going to be doing a sports show? What am I going to do? You're going to be selling, advertising. I said, I ain't never sold nothing. In fact, this last attempt at sales ended in failure. He said, well, you want the job or not? I said, yep, I'll take it. My account list, and those of you who've been in sales know that certain salespeople have protected accounts, okay? In Monroe, Louisiana, which at that time was not much bigger than Conway, Arkansas. Conway's going to catch up with Monroe one of these days. The 2 salesmen who had been there for a while had 75 protected accounts each, 150 accounts that I couldn't touch. The sales secretary made up my account list from the yellow pages, from accounts that nobody else had. And using some techniques, though, see how things work out? Using some techniques that I had learned in trying to sell motivation programs, I was able to use, like qualifying prospects. And I put people who had never been on the air, and my general manager said, finding you was like going out in the street and picking up a $10,000 bill. So things getting better. I don't want to stay in sales. They had a really severe public relations problem in El Dorado. So he said, you want to go to El Dorado? And I said, what for? And he said, I need to go up there and kind of fix some issues we have. I'm going to give you a 5 o'clock Arkansas newscast. I want you to do PR. So I went to El Dorado, and that's where Tom's story picked up. The very first day on the job, I had commuted from Monroe to El Dorado, and I did that for 3 months until I left. But Bob Brown called. I thought he was the news director calling about an oil well blowout that we'd had just south of. He says, Dave, this is Bob Brown with KARK Channel 4 in Little Rock. Hey, Bob, how are you? I'm the general manager of KARK. Oh, Mr. Brown, how are you? And Tom's right. El Dorado is a 2-hour drive from Monroe, right? Even back then, highways have improved a lot, but even back then. And he did. He sent me a ticket to fly from El Dorado to Little Rock on Trans-Texas or Treetop Airlines, met me at the airport, put me up in a suite in the old Marion Hotel, and I said, man, this is big time. These people are serious. And Tom was entirely accurate. The reason that I turned the job down as news director was because I looked around and Little Rock was too big. I said, I'm not experienced enough, can't do it. And picking up the story that Tom told, he said, what else? Bob said, what else do you do? And I said, I do sports. And that was the beginning of what turned out to be one of the most successful, if not the most successful news team that Arkansas has ever seen. Roy Mitchell, Tom Bonner, me, and eventually, in 1979, Carolyn Long. Well, things just rolled along real nicely. You see why I say I'm blessed? Can you understand why I use that word and use it over and over? I probably should talk a little bit about the Voice of the Razorback experience that Tom referred to, and I've told you a little bit about that. Told you more about the end than the beginning. But Bud killed in that accident, October '74. Coach Broyles and KATV general manager Bob Doubleday agreed that I was the guy to succeed him. It was a dream job, a dream come true. Less than 3 years later, though, Frank decided to make that change. And that meant the end of the Channel 7 job for me as well. I don't think anybody ever tested the legality of it, but those two jobs went hand in glove from the time the Broyle Sunday Show moved from Channel 4 to Channel 7 in late 1969, or the late 60s, and Bud Campbell went over with it. So people have asked me a whole lot of times over these past 41 years if I resented Coach Broyles for firing me, and without hesitation, my answer is always no. I was devastated, obviously. To lose a job like that is devastating, but it was his decision to make, and I have never said one negative word about Coach Frank Broyles. I never will. I hold him in very high esteem, and we actually had a pretty good relationship from that time on. Well, I'm back in survival mode now. I don't have a job, so I formed a little advertising agency, and I managed to keep my head above water. And then in the summer of 1977, Tom and then General Manager David Jones asked me to come back to Channel 4 just to anchor sports and keep my little advertising agency. And here I have to tell you how grateful I am to David Jones especially and Channel 4, because a little less than 3 years earlier, I had left them in the height of our success and with David Jones's daughter, Rhonda, in the hospital fighting for her life, and that was the timing when I left Channel 4 to go to Channel 7. But I got to tell you, when I needed it most, they welcomed the prodigal back. They didn't literally kill the fatted calf, but they did air promos and buy newspaper ads with the theme, "Back Where He Belongs." I was so grateful. We remained at the top of the ratings for 9 more years. I eventually sold my agency and went back full-time to Channel 4. Now, fast forward to 1991, and I'm going to wrap this up. After 21 years in sports, my request to move to morning and noon news was granted. I went overnight from a day that ended at 11 o'clock at night to one that began at 3 o'clock in the morning. But that was fun. It was a ton of fun. Ask Aaron. They're up even. They go on the air now at 4 o'clock. When do you and Ashley ever see each other? That's what I'm wondering.
Right now.
Right now. That's because Aaron goes to work at 3 o'clock in the morning and gets off at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's about the time Ashley's coming to work and doesn't get off till 10:30. So, yeah, I don't know how that works out, but they have 2 children, so it must work out fine. Must be okay. So anyway, I moved over to that morning stint, and my next assignment was the Community Service Awards. When I tried to retire, they said, well, we'll let you get off the morning show and keep the noon show and go to the Community Service Awards. Had a good time with that. It honors volunteerism and community service statewide. So I formally retired in 2000, but in 2002, KARK's new management asked me to step in and rescue the CSA, whose producer had been fired. I won't go into any detail there. It's an interesting story, but I'm going to skip it. They liked the result, and I headed up that project for 10 more years. Thought I was going to be back for a year, maybe 2. Went 10, won an Emmy Award, and I retired the second time in 2012. Speaking of Community Service Awards, Tom Mura did our trophies for the last several years for the Community Service Awards. He didn't do mine for free. Did you? They were beautiful trophies too, Tom. Thank you very much. Well, the icing on the cake literally came when they asked me to do it one more time in 2015 when Jancy Sheets went to work for Tom Cotton. She had been doing the Community Service Awards for the last 2 years. So the reason I say icing on the cake was because I observed my 80th birthday in the KARK newsroom with a cake that Mallory Hardin Brooks had baked. Bob was there, Tammy was there, they were all there, and she had iced it. So I say this was the icing on the cake. So, in conclusion, every speaker's most eagerly anticipated remark. Let me repeat an old warning. Folks, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Shortly after I arrived in Little Rock, I set 2 goals. 1, to be the voice of the Razorbacks, and 2, to MC the Miss Arkansas pageant. Guess what? Got to do both. Guess what? Got fired from both. And you might say, well, you must not have been very good. and you just might be right. But the point is, that's not the point. The point is, I didn't allow those disappointments to dictate how I live the rest of my life. I love cliches, and some of my favorites are when the horse throws you, get back on. You know that one. When life hands you a lemon, make lemonade. And from a Chinese fortune cookie that my friend Vernon opened this past Sunday at lunch at the Asia Buffet, he handed me this Chinese fortune cookie fortune, and it said, no great success is achieved without a degree of failure. Now you'd think, talk about providential. Of all the Chinese fortune cookies in that restaurant, he gets that one and he hands it to me. I said, I'm going to use that next Saturday night because it fits right into my comments. So folks, 49 years ago, I experienced my first failure. Couldn't sell personal motivation programs, but I could sell television advertising to a dead account list. I could be a part of the most successful news team in Arkansas history. I could become the voice of the Razorbacks and the MC of the Miss Arkansas pageant. I could produce an Emmy Award-winning television show, and I could be elected to the Arkansas Sportscasters and Sportswriters Hall of Fame, and I could live long enough to be recognized as the patriarch of a wonderful family. So I guess to sum all of this up, I'd have to say that when you experience disappointments, you have two options. You can give up, you can be willing to call yourself a failure and be willing to spend the rest of your life in fear of taking risks because what, you just might fail again. Or you can get up and dust yourself off and go look for another challenge. So, you see why I say with such great conviction that I am a very blessed man. And I am very grateful to so many people who have aided me and who have supported me on my life's journey. And that includes those of you who I have already mentioned, and of course this Hall of Fame. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Arkansas. And God bless America. Thank you. Good night.
Let's hear it for Dave Woodman. And Tom, thanks for being here tonight. Okay, real quickly, we're going to rush this real quickly and everything. I'd like to ask Nathan Shook, board member, to come up, get the TV over here, put it behind me, put the laptop behind me, put that big package, $500 gift certificate from the Texas Rangers, a lot of memorabilia and stuff in there. I'd like to have the bowl up here. I'd like to have Dan Allen, another sports member, to come up, another member of the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame. He's going to draw, and the first draw we're going to have today is for that 32-inch HD television. The second drawing will be for that notebook, that computer notebook, and the last one is about $500 worth of prizes from the Texas Rangers. So, Dan Allen.
Dialing for daughters.
Right here, give me the number.
Magic squirrel cage, right?
There we go. We've got ticket. Is that 190 or 061? 061.
Right there. TV.
Come on.
Okay, we're going to draw for the notebook, computer notebook. That's coming up next. Dan Allen, you've done a great job all these years as a member of the board.
Thank you, thank you. And for the next numbers, 0, 4, 4, 44, 44. Nobody? Going once? Going twice? All right, we've got a winner.
Got a winner there, huh?
All right.
Okay. Okay, we have one more item to give away. Nate, go over there and get that big bag or raise it up. It's an NFL bag from the National Football League, a collector's item. Inside will be about 4 or 5 bobbleheads from the Texas Rangers, 2 hats, 2 shirts, and 2 bats that says number 3,000 with Adrian Beltre getting his 3,000th last year. So there you are. It's worth about $500.
Ticket number 1, 4, 3. 143. Anyone? Ah, thanks. Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Well, let's hear it for Dan Allen from the Conway Corporation. Real quickly, as our benediction will be given tonight by the Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters board member in Paul Nosur, legendary coach from Blevins and 2 or 3 other schools as he's making his way up here. I want to say that congratulations to the inductees, congratulations to the presenters here tonight, congratulations to the families that got the service award of 3 legends that we never will forget. And we invite y'all to come back next year for the 13th Arkansas Sportscasters Sportswriters Hall of Fame. We've been here 9 years. We hope to be here 10 years because this is a great place. Do y'all think it's a great place to come to? Let's hear it for Paul Nosur, our benediction. He's going to give our benediction to great board member that joined the board this year. Let's hear it one time for Mr. Paul.
Let us pray, please. Father, we thank you for this night. We thank you for the safe arrival of all who are here. We especially thank you for the honorees, the sportscasters and sports writers, and the job they have done with the integrity in which they have done their craft. Now be with us the rest of this evening. Have a safe travel home. And all these things we ask in thy name. Amen.
Thanks for coming. We'll see you next year.